everybody. Chris Capix here again. Welcome to another exciting edition of the Clover Street Podcast. And those of you who've been following us on social media and know what I've been promoting, well, guess what? She is here. I like to use the word incomparable.
Oh, incomparable.
Jennifer
Beautiful.
Warner. Uncomparable to anyone else.
I'm glad.
Welcome to the studio, Jennifer.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
You look fabulous.
Why, thank you. I did all this for you.
Ab fab.
And the peeps.
Yeah.
Yes.
You look great. I want to start this podcast out before I forget.
Yeah.
My wife went to Dollywood like a week or two ago.
Oh, my gosh.
She did a little research on you. She didn't really know who you were.
Good.
She started looking through your pictures and was just amazed.
Yeah.
She also noticed that you were a bit of a Dolly Parton fan.
I love Dolly.
So she...
the ultimate drag queen.
She went a little nuts in the gift shops, and she bought a buttload of merch.
Yeah.
And she wanted me to give these to you.
Get out of here.
Those are Dolly Parton earrings purchased at Dollywood. Have you been to Dollywood?
I have. I took my mom there years ago, and we had the best time. I love it.
I always wanted to go. Someday, my wife and I are going to take a vacation together, gosh darn it.
Let's do it. We'll all do it. I'll meet you at Dollywood.
Okay. Wow, it is so good. Let me tell you, I usually like to start off telling a bit about myself because I'm just a nobody to most people, but I am also a professional DJ. I own my own DJ company, Digital DJs of Hampton Roads.
Okay.
And my little claim to fame is I'm the You've Got Mail guy. When you log on in AOL, a little voice pops up says, You've Got Mail.
Yeah.
That's me.
Get out of here.
That's like the biggest gig I've ever had. We worked through an audio production company in Virginia Beach called Studio Center. Mm-hmm. It was a huge deal at the time and quite a while ago. And I don't get any kind of residual checks. It was just one big payout.
Wah. Yeah.
But I've just sort of been in broadcasting and radio and DJing and everything for over 20 years. So
Okay.
That's me. But we are here for you, Jennifer Warner.
Hi. We're here.
Look
We're
who we
here.
have.
I'm queer. We're here.
You have been called the RuPaul of Hampton Roads by me. I made
Okay.
that up.
I love it.
Is that a
And
fair assessment?
I'll take it. I'll take all of that. The notoriety. I love doing what I do. I've done it for 40 years.
Have you really?
Yeah, I
do some
started in
math
the
here.
early 1400s. We carved our own wigs out of wood. No. Honestly, it was in the 80s. It was a scary time for your protection as a person, and then to transition and become a fabulous woman is like a whole different thing, and it's scary, and it was scary at the time, but I pushed through it because I knew that this is who I wanted to be. And aside from the lipstick and the lashes and all this, there's a real person under here, and I look like a soccer mom out of all this, but that's good, but 40 years. I mean, I started around 84. I was a young underage person slipping into the bars, and if you did drag, you could get in.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Don't try this at home, kids. And so that's what I did. And I did it like a dare because I saw some queens on stage and I said, oh, they don't look good. I don't think they look good.
Yeah. You can do it better.
I can do that better. And all my friends were like, my little friends were like, it's harder than it looks. And I was like, oh, how hard can it be? It's tough. It's
was that
crazy
around
tough.
here?
That was here. Yeah. My dad was military.
Okay.
So we moved around a lot. I was always a new kid in class. Students, we have a new kid. This is before the pronouns. They are maybe look like a girl. We're not really sure what's going on here. So I learned with comedy and to be funny, make the kids laugh. And that's what kind of like broke the, the mold for me. And there's a whole other story. We'll get into it, how I got into show business and doing what I do.
My wife informed me last night. I don't think I was aware of this, that you also do stand-up comedy.
I do.
That is a whole... I mean, I could do an hour on that alone.
Yeah.
You, so far, honestly, this podcast is very young, very new. You are the biggest star.
Pow, it's me. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm glad I wore this dress.
The Queen of Drag,
The
a
Queen of
stand-up
Drag.
comedian.
Yeah.
I love it. I'm just so tickled. I'm starstruck. I'm sitting here
Don't be.
starstruck. I'm fanboying over you.
I love it. Thank you. Same.
Yeah. Gosh, what you said you started it on a dare way back in the day.
Well, it was like I just thought I could do that better, and then I did it, and I was not good the first time. You know, you get, I was a really shy kid.
I would not know that now.
Well, I got over it.
But
I came out and, you know, you come out of a curtain and you're on stage and there's a spotlight and it is so, it takes you over and you can't rely on like, there's my friends love me and all that. It's just you in the spotlight and it's tough. And I just remember my hand like visibly shaking and people were giving you money like, you poor thing.
I wonder if that helped in the beginning, you know? They were sort of giving
we called them pity tips.
Pity tips.
Tips. Here's a pity tip for you. And so I did okay the first time and then I did my own makeup and I used my own hair, so all of that was tragic. And
now this first time you did your own makeup at the drag show, had you done your own makeup before, just in your bedroom?
Joking around and playing around. We called it, you know, I'm from that era. We called it like gender bending and being funny, and it was like a ha joke every year. My mom was so surprised when I transitioned at first, and I said, "Mom, Halloween, I was a girl like 6 years in a row. Like, how many more hints do I have to give you?" And she was like, "No, I just didn't understand, you know." But and Kiss makeup, remember Kiss, the band? So I was really good at looking at a picture and copying the makeup, like amazingly good.
Yeah. Did you use some of the girl magazines back in the time, Cosmo and all that?
They never wore enough makeup for me. So I was looking at like, okay, look at Kiss. Look at like these hard rock bands that were like Guy Liner and all this kind of stuff, and then exaggerated a little bit.
Right. Insane Clown Posse.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Or clowns, just straight up clowns, you know. And I was like, okay, we'll do this, but don't go crazy. Do a little bit less, a little bit blah, blah, blah. And your friend, and I worked for in gay bars. So that's where I started, and they will tell you if you're not doing good. They're very judgy. God bless the gays.
Your fellow drag people or the
audience,
customer, the audience. Okay,
the audience are.
What makes them think they can just be that blunt and rude with you?
Because they're gay and they're fabulous and they know everything about everything, and you know, and it's just that whole hard knock sort of life. You just to come out and be gay in the 80s was so tough. So you have a bunch of gay men who have probably been through a lot. You know, now I'm older and I can look back and say, well, I understand why they were so daggone mean, because a bully bullies a bully and a blah, 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 and it just rolls down the hill.
I can see that.
So they were tough. I was really lucky because I had a good singing voice. And I had a high voice, which I hated when I was in like 8th and 9th grade. So I'm like, hi, you know, and all that. Now, it worked out great. But then it wasn't so good. So my thing was, you know, everybody was about lip sync. It had to be perfect.
Right.
And I would practice for hours in the mirror. And when I would take money from someone, I'd always take their money very nicely. And then I'd look at them and I would say, thank you. And it would just throw them off this female voice, because most of the ones had deep voices.
Right.
And so that was a whole nother thing that I had. I was like, okay, that's something the other ones don't have. Let me play on that. And then I wasn't good at makeup, so I looked around and I saw the one that was the best. And I said, do you do your own makeup?
Okay.
Yes. I said, will you do my makeup? Well, I don't really have time. I'll pay you. Suddenly they had time.
Done deal.
Amazing. And that's where I learned is, you know, I got them to show on me and teach me. And once you show me something, I'm a hands-on learner.
Yes, absolutely.
Once you show me something, only a couple times, I got it.
That's what's so great about YouTube today.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
I mean, you can look up virtually anything.
Yeah. Brain surgery.
Yeah.
I
mean,
basically.
Yeah. Dr. Pimple Popper, anyone?
Yeah. I love her.
My wife loves that show, and I sit there and watch it reluctantly, and I have this face the whole time. I'm like, why am I watching this?
Because it's interesting.
But
it's
now,
fun.
did any of your the fellow drag queens or the audience or anybody, were they not mean? Did they give you constructive? Did they sort of take you under the wing and show you the right way? And,
Absolutely. I'm making it sound just horrible, but I got a lot of praise early on.
Okay.
Back then, this is before we were on TV and all this stuff, so it was very underground. You would get very few straight people that would come to the bar because they would come. It was usually a hairdresser's best girlfriend who would then, he'd bring her to the bar, and she would just be like, where am I?
Yeah.
And why are these men are so beautiful? Look at it. And then we'd just be glamorous and over the top. And it was just a whole nother world. She had never seen anything like this at any Food Lion she'd ever been to in her life. So for me, I always tried to gravitate towards what I envisioned as beautiful people. So if you did your makeup well, if you put yourself together good, male, female, I don't care. I gravitated to these people. And I now know that was my creative side, trying to be creative with these people and learn, like, who am I going to be? And try to figure out what my look was. But back then you didn't have TV. I didn't have YouTube.
Right.
I literally had to learn from trial and error with a very strict audience. So,
and how important is it for somebody who does drag to develop, not just be a copycat, and develop their own look? And what is that process?
Immensely important. Nowadays, it's like these baby queens come out, I call them, and they've YouTubed for years since they're like 12 years old. They're over there, and they're an expert with makeup. It's so disheartening because I never see them bad, but they do. The one thing that I have noticed is that they don't have the confidence, so they're very nervous sometimes on stage. Mm-hmm. And I try to tell them, this is how you do. Take a deep breath before you go out. Think about what you're going to do. Plan out, but don't overthink it.
Right.
Or to look like I'm thinking of the next thing in your head. And I'm kind of a little bit of a mother to some people. Who want to listen. A lot of kids now, they are.
That's really good advice. So many people have that nervousness, like the old Jerry Seinfeld joke. People would rather be in the coffin at their funeral than standing up giving that eulogy, because they're so terrified of it.
Yeah.
I have never really had that issue. I like you said, I don't overthink it.
Yeah.
I've done voiceovers my whole life. I'm handed a script. I read it once, maybe twice. I'm good to go.
Yeah.
I still get a little nervous sometimes when I have to, but usually once I get up there and once I start my whatever I'm doing, I'm good. I don't even think about it anymore.
Yeah.
I don't have to picture them in their underwear or whatever. It's just a level of confidence, I guess, you get over time from doing it so many times.
Sure.
And you get more at ease with yourself.
Do you get a little nervous every now and then? I do.
Yeah, I do. I still do.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But then, and then most of the time when I'm done, I'm like, hey, I did a pretty good job.
Yeah. I always
surprise yourself.
I'm the other way. I'm always like, gosh, I could have done that better.
Your own worst critic.
But I don't like to look at stuff I've done. I probably won't look at this.
What?
I won't. I'll listen to it, but I may not.
Okay.
I won't watch it because I'll be like, oh my God, why is she sitting like that? Why aren't you doing this and like giving like, look what I'm doing and all that, But at the same time, you can overthink all that. You can be like, oh my gosh, my hair doesn't look right, or this isn't. I wish I'd put that lash up more, or why are my lips so big? And blah, all that.
You're the first person. I brought those the silvery things behind
the
you.
glitter.
Yes, you're the first person I pulled that. I think my wife got that for some sort of wedding or something.
Yeah.
Never used it again.
I love it.
Yeah, you're the first
it's
one.
It's tinselly.
We actually decorated the studio in honor of Jennifer Warner.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
Boy, what a journey it's been for you, though, huh?
For sure. Ups and downs, lots of stuff. I was really close with my family, which is like sometimes a rarity with trans people.
They've always been supportive and loving?
Always.
That's so great.
And I was so lucky. My father, he was Navy boxing champ.
Wow.
I'm the baby of 3 boys. So, he just didn't know what to do with me because, he used to tell a story. My father passed away in 1999, but he used to tell a story to me and my mom and stuff. He'd say, I remember the moment when it was just different. My brothers were like had guns. My dad was a big gun person. And he decided that he was going to take me out and teach me how to shoot, kill animals in the woods.
Really? How old were you at this time?
I guess I was like 9.
Oh, wow.
9 or 10.
That's young.
But he saw something in me that was not like my brother's, so he wanted to, in his mind, like, okay, let's
get her back on track.
Well, not even that. Let's make him a man. That sort of thing.
Right.
At the time. So there was, and he used to tell this story, and he was just like, it was so wild. So he takes me and my brothers out. They're so excited, can hardly sleep that night. I'm dreading it. I get up and like, oh, I think I sprained my ankle. I don't want to kill Thumper, or Bambi. So we go in the woods, and my brothers are shooting whatever's not moving, or moving. And I kind of wander off, and my dad freaks out because my brothers were supposed to be watching me. And he says, where is he? So they run. And this is autumn, and it's out in Suffolk. And my dad says he comes through a clearing, and there's all these trees. And he says he sees me dancing around, like catching leaves. And I've organized them by color and size around the tree. Yeah.
Just what every dad wants to see.
And I'm like going, and he goes, son, what are you doing? And the gun is like against the tree. I could care less. Yeah. And I'm like, look, they're so beautiful. And it's like I'm snowflakes or something. So when we went back, I didn't know this till years later. He said, he's yours. Like, deal with this. I don't know what to do. So I stayed with my mom, and I stayed inside, and I learned how to cook and clean and make things and sew and all that. And that was, thank God, because it helped me in my career now. Yeah. And nobody did their makeup better than my mom. She was like amazing, and she would wear hair pieces and all this kind of stuff. It was that era, big hair.
Sure.
And my mom was my idol, and I loved her. And I loved my dad. It was just a different sort of, I was always a little scared. But my brothers were so bad that, and I was the baby, that as long as I didn't, my dad used to say, as long as you don't burn the house down or bring a girl home pregnant. And I was like, neither one of those are happening. That I was, the golden child. I was the golden child. So when I started doing shows, my mom found out really early because she found a bunch of stuff.
You were doing it in secret?
I was. Okay. I was in high school. From your family. I'm in high school,
right.
And I'm like
going to these bars.
Right, which is insane. And I'm using my brother's ID because I knew all of his information. Sorry. And so I would go in and slip into these bars. And the first time I saw a drag show, I was just like, literally, the light with the bing. Oh. And I thought, well, that would be fun. And then I was like, well, I can do it better than them. And then the rest of the story. And
you're so lucky to have discovered something that just clicks with you. And you're like, wow. And especially something like that that's sort of underground. And you kind of really have to kind of dig and look for it or know people. Know certain groups of friends.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Some people never really discover who they are in their life.
Or they're not happy with what I think about how my life could have been, it could have been much different. I could go into detail, but I'm sure I would offend somebody, so I'm not going to say real detail here. But my life could have gone down another path that I think I could have been in a cubicle, I will say that, and just been miserable.
Sure.
I just remember my dad saying to me before he passed, he said, and he didn't know the right way to do it. This is 1999, so give him a break. And he said to me, he goes, I'm so proud of you.
Aww.
Because you people kill yourselves a lot. And I was like, and I was already, always the funny kid. And he goes, and you would never do that, would you? And I said, Dad, if you ever hear that I've committed suicide, I want you to make one phone call. You to call Angela Lansbury because there's been a murder she wrote.
Yeah.
And I said, nobody loves me like me.
Yeah.
And he said, no, I love you more. And I said, okay. And then, he passed not long after. So I had that
that's wonderful.
You doing a good job sort of thing. And my dad, so I always had that support. And I hear so many trans women who don't have that. And it's, and I think it does stunts you as in your growth as
Sure.
a human being.
And I imagine it's mostly fathers that don't want to accept it more so.
Sometimes they totally turn. Well, the mothers have to go with their husband in thinking, and so they will throw them out on the street. Can't tell you how many apartments I've had where I've taken in what I call wayward drag queens who have been thrown out of their house. You can't come home, you can't do this, and and so that's where these families kind of come in, these little drag families, and you kind of adopt somebody and help them. And I have a few kids that I've helped over the years.
I don't understand the people that reject their own children.
Yeah.
I just don't get that. I can't even wrap my head around it.
My mom said the same thing. She was like, she used to say, everyone has a mother, everyone. And how could that mother give birth to that child and then, you're not allowed to come home. I can't speak to you. It was a little rough in the very beginning. My dad was a little not understanding, but later
I don't have any kids, but I mean, if my kid was a serial killer, I think I would still love them and maybe even hide them out.
I mean, I would write a book about them, of course.
For sure. You got to make that money.
Make that money. And then can you sign this?
Yeah.
I don't know. I just think that, again, I use the saying that it was a different time.
It was.
The 80s were tough. The 90s were tough. The 2000s. Then we move into a whole nother era where I transitioned early, and then a lot of people had some issues with it, and I had a lot of flack, believe it or not, with a lot of people in the gay community.
What was their number one?
Well, that you don't want to be a gay guy. You want to now be a woman. So you're like kind of turning your back on the gay community, some people thought. So there was that.
Yes.
And other drag queens felt that you had an advantage, an unfair advantage. So there's a lot of contests where you can't have breast or body work or any of that kind of stuff done. That's now pretty much changed. There's only a couple ones where, you can't do it. You can't have, now you can complete sex change and still enter. And I've always said that there isn't a category about open your legs and let's see what's down there. So as long as there's not that category, who cares if you used to be a woman, used to be it's just so silly. You used to be a woman, used to be a man, used to be. Now drag is like, and dressed as a girl, drag.
Oh yeah, I never thought about that.
Yeah, that's what it stands for. But it's now there's cisgender women who do drag, and I've done shows with them.
I was talking to my wife about that last night because she was sort of reminding me what cisgender meant, so I wouldn't flub up.
Yeah,
right. And I said to her,
female.
"Are there any cisgender people that do?" I think I may have asked her, "Do you think that do drag?" And she's like, "Oh yeah, I'm sure."
There really are, and some of them are amazing. There are drag kings, so some of them dress in the male persona, and some of them do it full time. Some of them have had surgery to remove breasts and whatever. Some don't. Some have the full sex change. It just depends.
Do you mind? This is a very sensitive question, but have you had the full?
I'm a woman.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, so you've had the, okay.
I'm a woman.
All right.
That's all you need to know.
Okay. I can accept that answer. That's fine. That's fine. It's
Yeah.
just, I wanted to ask you a little bit later. I had in my notes about.
I'm sure.
I
was waiting for that question.
I wanted to ask you about tucking and if that's ever an issue with certain dance moves or how difficult or complicated that is.
To me, that's kind of a subject anyway.
Okay.
But as I recall, when it was an issue, it wasn't because, there's ways of, ancient Chinese secret, ways of putting things away. For me, that isn't an issue anymore. And for a lot of entertainers, like I said before, there isn't a category about open your legs, let's see what's going on.
Sure.
So I just feel like we're all entertainers. I more call myself an entertainer. My private life, a lot of people have made speculations, and so I kind of blew it out of the water a year ago because I got married. And I married a rather masculine lesbian woman.
Okay.
And that just floored a lot of people because they didn't see that one coming. Because I've dated men most of my life, and so it was real interesting. The people that wanted her to know that I was a drag queen, and now is she still a lesbian? And then she had to have an argument with them that I know everything about her. I've seen her naked, and she is a woman. But just because she didn't tell you that, you know what I mean?
Right.
It's a shame that we have to, like, genitalia has to be at the forefront of who you are as an individual.
And normally I wouldn't ask that if I was just hanging out with some ladies or at a drag show. It's just, this is sort of a dissecting interview, and
I get it.
I wanted to put it there. And any question that I ask you, please let me know. That's something I don't really want to get into.
Well, I mean, I answered it.
You sure did.
As nicely as I want to.
You answered it perfectly.
But yeah, it's so now. I actually had someone say to me, to my face, after I got married to Ellen, that, oh wow, so you're a straight couple now. And this was somebody in the gay community, and I was really, really hurt by it, bothered, and instantly pissed off. And I make a living with this, so I have very sharp tongue. I have to be very careful. I do a lot of gigs that I've learned to, like, calm it down. Don't say what's in here.
Right.
Be nice.
I'm still working on that.
Right. Be nice. Be nice. So my wife was much more offended by it than and mad. And he apologized, and I think sincerely he just...
Did he sort of realize by the looks on your faces that how he had touched the nerve?
All I said to him was, you realize I'm a woman, right? I said, I know you gay guys get real confused sometimes. And I said, but yeah. And I just kind of looked at him, and I was mad, but we got past it, and him and I are friends now. We're cool.
Nice.
I don't hold grudges for people that are not educated on a subject.
Yes.
And I do feel that I'm a teacher to teach people how to speak to people, how to speak to trans people, how to speak in general in public and in professional settings, but also privately. Mm-hmm. For some reason, a lot of people that come to my brunches or shows sometimes, usually a certain demographic of people have a tendency to, like, they want to touch.
Yes.
And it's usually women, white women.
Okay.
Don't get it. And they just are so amazed by all this, and they have to put their hands on it.
They don't really care about crossing.
No, they cross the lines.
Yeah.
And it happens constantly.
Really?
And I have to...
How do you deal with that?
Oh, very well.
Yeah?
Very well. You
ever just slap them away? Or
I do. I slap their hands.
Yeah.
I have said... how would you like it if someone did that to you?
Yeah, exactly.
I've literally stopped performing. I remember I was working one time, and this drunk, it's always a drunk lady, was just like, are your tits real? And all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, and she's like, is that really your body? How did they do that? And she's calling me he and all this kind of stuff, which I don't have a problem with because I just know that they're not educated and they don't know me.
Sure.
So they just assume we're all dudes, and that's okay.
You've got to develop quite the thick skin.
Oh my God, I'm the thickest skin ever. Yeah. And I just looked at her, and she just was belligerently, like, throwing these things at me, and I said, and then that meanness came out, that old 80s, that meanness girl that's in there, and I just looked at her and I said, you're divorced, aren't you? I said, because no man could love that.
Oh.
And it was so, and that's not nice. And so I became the mean one.
Right.
And so I try to not do that. Like, don't get mad at these people. She laughed. So clearly this is not the first time she's heard something like that. When you have a mouth on you, you get people put you in your place. But no, my wife has a tendency to she would get. We've been married almost a year in October. It's coming up a year, and but we've been friends for years and years, and she has, I thought, really thick skin until it comes to me, and she just feels very protective.
Yep.
And I've had to tell her, "Hey, babe, it's good."
Yeah.
Sometimes people want reactions, and they ask you or say very rude, horrible things. Doesn't mean you have to answer it. Doesn't mean that they deserve an answer. They also don't deserve the reaction that they're probably wanting.
Right.
And that is, to be mad and some sort of, if you just look at somebody and say, for instance, I would never ask you and your wife how you have sex.
I would hope not.
Because it would be immensely rude. But multiple people asked her if I have had surgery, how do we have sex? And she just would be flabbergasted, so mad. And I said, girl, that's what they want. They want to make you mad.
Well, that's true, but some of them might be genuinely curious.
Sure.
but they don't have the filter. They don't know how.
Right.
First of all, they need to understand that's none of their business.
None.
And second of all, it's none of their business.
Right. Well, like I was going to use a joke that I used to use about, we were talking about tucking, and I used to say, you don't ask David Copperfield how he made the Eiffel Tower disappear. We're magicians. And then that's like kind of my standard joke.
Yeah.
And when I first transitioned, I was very nervous that being a woman, they would not allow you to continue to do drag. So I was very mysterious about what I've done personally. And they would say, oh, have you had bottom surgery? And I would say, I'm not comfortable with that. Are we sleeping together? I'm so confused. You haven't even bought me dinner. These are my jokes, and that's to deflect.
Yeah.
And it comes from everybody. Katie Couric did a interview with a girlfriend of mine who's been on RuPaul's Drag Race, and asked her these same questions, and thought it was fine. And I was like. And Laverne Cox was on there, and Carmen Carrera.
Katie Couric asked the inappropriate questions?
Mm-hmm.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think she'd know better than that.
Well, she learned.
Yeah.
Because,
She learned that day.
Laverne took her to school that day, which was really good.
Laverne is from Orange is the New Black, right?
Yes.
Yes.
And I love her.
And doesn't she have a twin?
She does.
And the twin acted in the show.
Absolutely. In her male part from before she transitioned, and it was like a flashback. And amazing.
Show.
And Laverne is such a sweetheart. Every time I'm around her, it's like old friends. She's very sweet. We're not besties, but we have done some things together. And kudos to her. An African American trans woman that's been on the cover of Time, and all of her movie parts and stuff. To be visible as a trans person is so. Usually, when I came out, the only parts you could get in a movie were like dead trans hooker, 1, or dead hooker 2. Or whatever, you had these horrible parts. Now, leading roles and amazing stuff is happening. So.
When movies come out like To Wong Fu, Thanks for Everything.
Yeah.
When a movie like that comes out, it's got to make you feel really special, right?
Well, it depends on how it's done.
If it's done good, if it's done right. The Birdcage was another one, right? Yeah. I have very limited, But
Mrs. Doubtfire and all that, and Tootsie, and and all this kind of leads into, where now there seems to be an attack on drag, that it's now a bad thing politically wise, and I feel like, well, we've been around. Like, don't act like this just happened. Like drag queens have been, and trans people, and
thousands of years probably, right?
Forever.
Yeah.
And so since the beginning, I'm sure there was some caveman who shed his hair and put it on his head. Who knows? I don't know. He lip synced for his life. Who knows? But I just feel like
that's a reality show title right there. Lip sync for your life.
Lip sync for your life.
That's Jennifer Warner's idea, y'all. If you go out and start that show, you need to cut her a residual check.
Yes, you do. And you need to pay me in Dolly earrings. I love
Dollywood,
Dollywood earrings.
Merch. Yeah.
Yes. But anyway, so I feel like, where were we? I'm sorry, I lost
talking about how long it's been around and people.
Yeah, it's not brand new. And this
not
hate,
accepting
this, I even have a little flag here. Here we go. Here's my fan. And it says everything. Drag is not a crime.
Not a crime.
It is not. And they're trying to make it a crime, which is sad because I think it is a creative outlet for so many, and not just gay, but so many people, gay, straight, all allies, all the way across the board.
I think the main concern, and I would love to get your view on this because I've really kind of only heard the tight ass's view on it.
Sure.
Is doing shows where there are children present.
Yeah, I've done many.
And not just that. I would like you to talk about both, just doing shows and then the readings, going to the libraries and reading.
Done those too?
Yeah, tell me, why are most people so up in arms by that? What do they think is happening?
Well,
and why is it not
true? Well, they
true?
think there seems to be a widespread ignorance that we are somehow trying to indoctrinate their children.
Right.
I can barely babysit my niece and nephews because they're just wild children. So I cannot imagine. I don't want your children. Most drag queens, we're busy, we're working, we're doing our thing. And most children gravitate towards us. And I do believe that it's a funny little comparison, but if you take your kid to the circus, they love the clowns. So I feel we're a little, we're over the top. Mommy's not wearing that much makeup.
Right.
We're exaggerated looks.
And the outfits.
And the outfits.
And the sparkles.
I curb my show to my audience.
Okay.
So I don't think all drag performers do that. They feel like this is what we do. It's sexualized. It's very sexy, almost burlesque or more, very burlesque. So I don't think those shows are good for kids.
Okay.
But I'm not sure parent.
That's the key right there, right?
I'm not sure
these 8-year-olds aren't driving downtown to
No, they're
to
not
the
coming into the bar and being like, I want to see a drag show.
Right.
It's the parents. So if you're going to be mad at somebody, be mad at them. But I really don't even think you should. They're calling it child abuse and that you're exposing your kids to this. But yeah, you'll take your kids to Hooters and these women are half dressed. You'll take your kids to...
That's a good point. I never
You'll
thought
go
of
to
that.
festivals where people are inebriated. They're saying lots of dirty words.
Sure.
I'm not up there throwing F-bombs around kids. And I do a lot of shows where kids are there. And I'll get into this. I just hosted last July, last month, the second Pride Day at Busch Gardens.
I saw that on
Yeah.
social media.
Yeah.
That's so cool that Busch Gardens has welcomed you.
Yeah.
Is this their first? This is the second.
Second.
Is that they did it last year too?
Yeah.
Okay.
I did the first one last year.
Oh, you did?
I
and
did.
the second one.
And the second one.
Nice.
And the third one coming. And so I was, but we're under a lot of scrutiny. We have to...
Because all kinds of people are walking through Busch Gardens.
Yeah.
While that goes on.
The first show was about 40% all kids.
Okay.
So I opened up with Barbie, and I thought, okay, the Barbie movie just came out, and I thought, okay, do a Barbie thing, and I came out of a Barbie box, and I did all this.
Oh, cool.
But the Barbie was very toned down. She was not in a swimsuit. She was in a skirt.
Right.
And she was, I was in a very covered up. Every outfit that we wore, we had to get on stage, and marketing had to look at what we were doing.
Okay.
The scrutiny was unbelievable, but I did it because I think it's really important for us to be seen at places like Busch Gardens. And I've been booked at like college events. I've been booked at tons of corporate gigs. And I do curb my show. If it's all adults, then yeah, I'm going to do something more showgirly, Las Vegas showgirl.
Sure.
Feathers and da-da-da, and maybe, a little striptease, but nothing like crazy bad because people still have a phone. I recently hosted the first Ocean View Mermaid Festival, and they had me there dressed as a mermaid. And the guy that was organizing it said, hey, you can wear just whatever you want. I said, well, I have a mermaid tail, but I usually wear a bikini, but I'm not going to wear that on top. I'm going to cover it up. And he said, no, you can do that. It's fine. And I said, no. There's this thing called the internet.
Right.
And they will crucify me because there's children there.
Right.
So I have to constantly be aware of that and know that, kids love us. They love drag queens. They love the flash and all this stuff. And if you could see my inbox with all my social media, and there's so many families that have written me letters, emails and all this stuff about, thank you so much for doing what you're doing. My child is identifying themselves. They're trying to come out. They're gay, they're straight, they're bi, they're non-binary, they're possibly trans. We're letting them decide. But thank you for being a strong role model.
Sure.
And seeing that you can transition, you can have, have a great career.
It's got to be magical for those kids because they don't feel like they're alone in the world.
Right. Right. And they're surrounded by other people that if the little boys want to wear eyeshadow, and God forbid, macho Camacho dad loses his mind because, little Timmy wants to put glitter on his eyeballs because he saw his sister do it.
Right.
That's not grooming. Think about it. Like, is your sister's not grooming the little boy, the brother, but yet you're saying that we're doing that because we're doing what we've done all along. It's just now we're in the mainstream, and I said this before, we're like rock stars. I mean, everywhere we go, it is like lights, camera, action. But with that platform, you have to be careful and make sure that you do things correctly. So I'm constantly worried about my image and about what I try to present.
Absolutely.
And what I say and how I say it to people. And it's exhausting, let me tell you, but it's good.
I have a similar story in my line of work, being a DJ. I'll never forget, I told this story before when I talked to couples, and they're like, you know what? Go ahead and play that DMX song. I know there's cursing in it, but and then this early in my career of DJing, I played this DMX song that had the F-bomb in it and everything else, and you could see the grandparents and the parents getting up and coming towards me.
Yeah.
And I can't throw the bride and groom under the bus.
Right.
I've learned that.
Right.
Because they don't understand. Hell, the bride and groom said this is okay. I know little Johnny's there and Grandma Edna's hasn't left yet. But so I tell my couples now, I say, listen, because that just reflects badly on me. All they're going to remember is don't hire that guy. Get his card and you tell as many people about it. So it's sort of a similar situation. I tell couples now, after grandma and grandma leave and after the kids leave and things get a little, wilder, then I'll do it. Yeah. Just like in your situation, you curve your act depending on your audience.
Read your room. Read the room.
Exactly.
Read the room. I say that to so many entertainers. I do believe that around the country, a lot of queens have not or will not curb their show. Like, no, I'm going to do this. This is my art. No one should tell me how to do my art. And so I see both sides of it.
There is two sides to that.
Yeah. And I'm like, for me, it's just easier for me to just listen. There's going to be kids there. So I'll do Wonder Woman, a character.
Right.
But I won't wear the Wonder Woman that's like very super sexy.
Sure.
I have a Wonder Woman costume that has a bottom, a whole, like a gown.
Right.
Looks like a Wonder Woman gown,
yeah,
if you will. Which is not what she wore. But I wear whatever. But the swimsuit, even though it was approved and it was on television and all that, I wasn't allowed to wear that at a very major event.
And you said, okay.
And I went, okay. Because what do? I could stand by. No. I did argue and threaten to not do this gig to pay my other entertainers like almost exactly what I was making.
Right.
Because I was being paid a lot and they were being paid a little. And in the past, it was very, I only thought about me. Like me, make sure I make the most.
Sure.
And now, this was one of the first times I'd ever done that. I said, well, I'm not doing it unless they're paid, like I am.
Nice.
And they were like, well, we're not sure we can do that. I was like, well, okay, then good luck with your show. And you have 1 week.
Right.
And I literally got off the phone and I thought, well, I just screwed that up. I just lost this huge gig. And they called me back and they're like, okay.
Yeah.
So sometimes it's good to do that, especially corporately, because they have money. Like, give me a break. Like, pay everybody right.
You've done acts all over the country.
Yeah, Las Vegas. I've hosted Las Vegas Pride for many years, and I'm not from there. I just went 1 year and then said, "Do you need a special guest?" And I MC, and somebody handed me the mic. The MC wasn't very great or whatever. You know who you are, and she said, "Oh, do you want to say something on the mic?" And I just said, oh my gosh, I'm so nervous.
I do that all the time.
And I was like,
yes. Yep.
And then the audience was mine. Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
I was
for
like,
sure.
Yeah, I know today.
Isn't that a fun feeling?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was like, underestimate me. I love that. I love when you do that.
When people don't realize that you're just an ace in that. It's so great.
Well, now people are more surprised that I do stand-up comedy. They're like, well, what is that like? And I was like, it's real simple. I've been doing it for 40 years.
You've been doing stand-up comedy for 40 years?
Basically.
Okay.
Because I've been doing shows, and when I first started shows, I just did it for fun, and I was never paid. That whole first year, I just did it for fun, and I was taken advantage of. Nobody paid me.
Sure.
They were like, "Oh, she's stupid. Don't pay her."
Yeah.
And I'm like, I just love doing it. And all that, and then somebody was touring through my little city and in Norfolk, and I used to work at a club called the Q Club, and this person's car broke down, and her name was Carmen Del Rio. She was the Vegas showgirl. That's what she was called.
All right.
And I was just enthralled with her, and I just and I wasn't really good enough to be in her show. Like, they had other people, so I was just out in the audience like, let me in. And her car broke down, and she was supposed to go on this tour. And she was there that Monday they had spaghetti night on Monday night, and there she was. And I walked up to her and, Miss Del Rio, your show was really great last night. I thought you were leaving for your tour today. And she said, I was, but my car's broke down. And I was like, I have a car. And she goes, you'll take me? Oh, well, we have to do D.C., Long Island. We're going to New York. I'd never been to New York City at this point. I was like, okay. And we did it. I said, can I be in the show? And she goes, yeah, but I can only pay you $50 to open for me. I've never been paid. So I was like, okay. And I'm thinking, I'm rich, And I went on tour with her, and we did, the tour was like, 9 clubs.
That's great. That's
Philadelphia,
huge.
D.C., and she taught me how to talk to these bar owners, but I had never emceed at that point. I was still very nervous.
Right.
And she had a problem with one of her costumes. We were in Philadelphia. I'll never forget it. And her costume had broken, and she had to, repair it. And she goes, I need 5 minutes. And it was just her and I in the show.
Okay.
And I go, well, what are we going to do? And she hands me the mic. She goes, go talk to him. I go, I don't, what? I don't know what to say. She goes, tell him a joke. And I was like, oh my God. And I'm dying.
Oh my, I can imagine.
You couldn't see, but I was blood red underneath all the makeup. So I walk out and I go, hi. Terrified. And they're like, hi, back. And it's just packed. I mean, it's like 400 people in this audience. And I'm like, so Carmen's no, don't say that. And I'm literally saying this on the mic, no, don't say that. And then they start laughing. And then I'm like, well, I'm here to, stretch, to make time and I don't know what I'm doing. I was just bluntly honest.
Yeah.
And I had no idea that worked.
Yeah, they loved it.
And I was like, listen, I've never spoken on a microphone before, but so I'm going to come around and I just want to know, what do you guys do? And I'm like, what's your name?
Oh, that's great.
What do you do for a living?
Yes.
And I was like, oh, well, that's boring. Like he was an accountant. And I said, oh, that's boring. We should give you another job. What's your dream job? And he said whatever he said, and I said, okay, then you're a horse delivery person or whatever his dream job was. I jump out of planes for a living, and I was like, great. And then some people's were really silly, even their dream job, and I was like, dream harder. Dream. And then, then I'd make up ones and say that, oh, you're a porn star. That's amazing. And she was like a teacher, and she laughs and blah, blah, blah. And then when I came back, Carmen said, you're funny. And I was like, is that good? And she's like,
it's
yeah.
so great she caught that.
Yeah, because she said most pretty people, this is her words, not mine, because I was pretty, most pretty people.
You're still pretty.
Thank you. Most pretty people, they're like one-dimensional. And she said, you need to show that other side of you. You need to be funny.
Yeah.
And then that way you'll be a triple threat, a double threat.
For sure.
And then if you get on the mic, then you're a triple threat. And then you got everything. You have the comedy, you're good on the mic, you're pretty. Now you're cooking with, gas. And I was like, huh. So for the rest of the tour, I emceed the show.
And you did it, you just riffed off of people just like that?
Yeah.
That's sometimes the best way.
It is.
Your comedy gold is hidden out there in that.
Well,
that's
yeah. Well, there's comedians that are doing that now.
Yeah.
And Riff, what is his name? Oh God, the guy that he's so popular right now.
I think I know who you're talking about.
Yeah.
I think I actually reached out to him to see if he would do this show.
Yeah. Oh yeah, he was just in town. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's amazing, and I can't remember his first name for some reason, but he, sorry, love you if you're watching this, but he does crowd work, and that's really so. As a comedian, as a new comedian, I'm considered a new comedian. I've been doing this for a long time in the gay clubs and like emceeing and all that. So when I first started, I didn't have the hard start that a lot of comedians, because I've heard stories and they've told me like, oh my God, nobody laughed, and I was like, well, that's what you do, I have some upcoming I have some upcoming shows at Kazi's Comedy Club. Yeah, and I've done stuff at Funny Bone before. In Richmond and in here, I've done stuff in Baltimore. I have a comedy show that I do in the Outer Banks on Friday nights. It's like usually the third Friday of every month.
And you strictly do comedy?
I do comedy, and then I do a drag show. I still mesh them. So I'll book my queens, and I kind of like do stand-up in the beginning. So a little monologue, if you will. And it's just, and I read the audience. And, if it's all like a certain white demographic, professionalism, whatever, then, I do certain types of jokes.
Right.
I find that jokes transcend race, color, everything when they're really good. So that's the sweet spot.
That's so cool that you have so much material in your head that you can customize it to different crowds.
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard enough to hold a good solid 5, 10, 20 minutes in your head in the first place, but to be able to move around and customize it for the, to be able to do that is a skill in itself.
Yeah, it's tough. It's hard. It's hard too because you don't know when the audience is going to turn on you, because there's only a certain amount of. I always say you only have three shots at it. If you bomb on or start to bomb on one joke, they'll kind of forgive it if you come back.
Right.
If you bomb on the second joke, you're asking for it. But if you bomb on that third one, you should go ahead and start the car because it's time to hit it. It's over. And I've been really lucky to be able to come on stage and tell them that, and I always have a funny opening line of, I'm part of the LGBTQIA Disney Plus, Hulu, Disney Plus, Hulu, no commercials. And then I always stop, they laugh, and I wait for the break, and then I say, Mafia. And they get really weird, and I go, "Oh, we're not like other mafias. We break into your house, we feng shui your room, we leave. It's different. We're not leaving a horse head in your bed." And and that's usually my open liner, and it just gets at it. And I'm the T of the LGBTQIA, and then I go into plus, but then I go into my the whole thing about I got married. Everybody got married, yeah. And I've said, everybody asks me, "What's his name?" And I always say, "Ellen." And then they all go look, and I go, yeah, I married a very masculine lesbian. And I go, I'm going to let that just marinate for a minute. And then I walk over and do a little, but I have to be careful now because so many comedians do crowd work that I have to have enough material. Because my whole early stages with comedy were always, and I mean always, crowd work. Because that's all I knew.
Right.
I didn't have any set jokes. Like, what are you talking about? Because I always had a different audience, and I thought, I can't, tell these. What kind of jokes am I going to tell to a bunch of angry gay men who are, like, you can only do so many, penis jokes. And so you learn, and then you curb. And but in the beginning, I was really good with comedy because I knew, don't tell all your friends. Go into a cold room that they don't know you. And if you can go over in that room, you got it.
Okay.
And I just said, I'm going to give it like 6 months. And if I don't get better, at all, then this isn't for me. And I still have this.
Right.
I always have this.
Right.
So, but this is like a crutch. I've been told that from other comedians. They know everything.
The comedy is a crutch?
No, that drag is a crutch.
Oh.
That I need to do it. Just soccer mom, walk up there, and do it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I will not. I love doing all this.
I think it's great because if you do drag and comedy in a single show, they really kind of get to know you. You're not just this dancing, bobbing person up on stage. They're like, hey, this person's got a mind, is creative, they're funny, and they do this. It's just a win-win all the way around.
Yeah. I think it's better too. This is in my armor, if that makes sense. When I'm not all dolled up, then, I just feel like, am I really that funny? And, you go through that a little bit.
Sure. And
you start second guessing yourself. I've done it where I wasn't all done up.
Okay.
And it was just difficult. I remember I was at a comedy club, and the owner was very nervous that I was not going to be able to handle hecklers because they had a lot of hecklers. And I was like, oh, honey, you don't know what I've been through. And she's like, well, I don't know. So I'm doing she wants me to do my act, my 5-minute set on stage. So I'm doing it to a cold room. There's nobody in the room. It's just, they're setting up. Okay. And she's walking around, and she yells out, "You suck." And I was like, "Your dad thinks so." And, and all that. And I keep going, So finally, and it was like I was on the back part of the stage, and then there was a spotlight that came down because nobody was working. It was just kind of in the middle, right? I'm telling you that for a reason. So she goes and she says a couple of other ones, "Oh, you need another job." And I was like, look at me. I'm a trash man by day, but at night I do this and, and all that. So she goes to the very back and she yells out, "Faggot." Yeah. And I walk up to the front of to the spotlight and I go, "Dad, you came." And literally, she died. She goes, "You're hired."
Oh,
and it was
God.
like that. I was like, but you have to, that's what I'm talking about, thick skin.
Yes. And that's so great to have a practice heckler in the crowd. What a great idea.
Well, I told her, I said, if anybody calls me that, I mean, God. I said, I'm ripping this dress off. I'm going to be butt naked on stage. And she's like, "Please don't do that." And I was like, wouldn't it be great? Like, ha, tricked you. But
for her to save that powerful ammo and say that to you was a good test.
Well, she didn't want me to get caught off guard, and she knew that maybe some of her patrons would say something
absolutely
crazy.
Absolutely.
But mostly I've had good reactions, and it's funny though that some people are still nervous by transgender people and gay people and drag queens. Just, it's instilled in them that I have literally terrified grown men who could probably break me in two and they're over there just shaking in their boots. Because they're just like, and I'm like, this is the closest you've ever been to one of us, isn't it? And all that kind of stuff. And I'm like, so what do you do? Yeah. And I'd love to do this with straight men. I always say, I said, I love that gay stuff y'all do. What is it called? Oh, yeah, good game. And then you slap each other on the butt. So odd when you do that. I said, why do y'all do that? Will you do that to me? And, and it's just like you can literally see the sweat break out on his top lip. It's just like.
I wonder if that's like a good icebreaker, if they then feel a little more at ease, like, hey, this is just a regular person. You know?
Yeah. Well, I find that, like, for me, just some comedians are just so rehearsed. And I hope I never get there. But that's where the money is. That's where the Netflix deal comes.
Sure.
So you kind of have to have a rehearse. I love comedians that it's their act, but it sounds like they just walked up, grabbed the mic, and started talking.
Oh, and it's amazing.
And
some of them I've heard even have plants in the audience.
Yeah.
I don't mean ferns. I mean, they will plant hecklers in there just because they know they can give a golden response.
Yeah.
So they'll have them say, so I guess that's out there too.
Yeah.
So, wow, that's so great. Comedy. I love comedy. It just releases endorphins and it makes me feel good. I could just watch Netflix comedy specials back to back to back. It's great. What are your thoughts on Dave Chappelle and all the controversy around him?
Ooh. He's controversial. So, and he's a comedian. So I don't know if I can trust everything that he says. I do believe that.
And its intentions.
Yeah, that's the whole thing.
Right.
I think some of the stuff he says is offensive. It's just offensive. But at the same time, it's comedy, people. Like, thicken up, but you have to, like, let somebody know where things are going wrong. Like, you shouldn't say this, or you shouldn't say it this way. But we're in America, and you have the right to say whatever you want. So who's to say he can't speak ill will of, transgender people or say it in a light? But then we'll turn around and say, oh, I have trans friends, and, I'm kind of, and I know a trans comedian. And she thinks the act is funny. Well, I mean, I'm sure, like, if you're a racist, you can find another racist that'll think your act is funny.
I've heard comedians that have maybe racial material in their act, and they're like, I joke with everybody. I black, Asian, it doesn't matter what.
I offend everyone, yeah.
Right. But then, being that the trans community and the gay community is sort of, they're not as widely accepted.
Right.
You're going to love a black guy, whether he's black or not, but people don't have that same attitude. So to go after them and make materials that's aimed at them, I could see the sensitivities for sure. I could see the touchiness and being offended by that.
Yeah.
Because,
Well, I think that there's levels, and I think there's so many people that are offended by everything that the pendulum has to swing back at some point. So you have someone that says extremely homophobic, extremely transphobic things and hide behind comedy.
Right.
Then you have somebody who, and then we'll throw in a compliment. So it's like gaslighting, basically.
Sure.
Is what it is. It's like, oh, I'm going to rip you apart, and then I'm going to say, hey, but I like that shirt. You're a snazzy dresser. Yeah. You gays know how to do it. And that kind of BS.
Yeah.
And I just think it's your reaction.
It's almost like they're backtracking.
Well, it's gaslighting.
Yeah, you're right.
That's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
So I saw his special because I wanted to watch it because I don't believe in just, reading a little a blip that pops up. You're supposed to read it or watch the material. I think he's a genius. Most geniuses are a little off. I think he's intelligent. I think he's well-read. And I think he knows how to make a controversial thing out of whatever the hot topic is. He knows how to turn that into, like, dance right on the edge of it.
Sure.
And every now and then he's going to drop in and then come back with that compliment or whatever.
Right.
So I found some of his stuff a little offensive, but all of it funny. So what does that make me? I don't know. All of it was funny because I'm a comedian and I think things and things make me laugh. I laughed at some really off-color dark humor that I shouldn't. If I'm trying to be politically correct.
But being that you're a comedian and you have a thick skin and you can appreciate the whole spectrum.
Yeah.
But then you have to then think of your friends that are they're much more sensitive and this is hurtful to them.
Yeah.
So I can
Well,
understand
I'll give
that.
you a good example. So there was, I see on Facebook, and there was a trans performer who did a whole rant about the TSA. How they made her feel so like not even a human, and they had this area circled and blah blah blah, and they had to do a search on her and people touching her, and she's never been so offended in her life. And I travel. I'm on a plane. I've been all over the world, and it's happened to me, like crazy stuff where they have to feel you up or whatever, and. The way I do it, I'm a comedian, so I have a little sick mind. And so when the lady was like, I'm going to use the back of my hand and I'm going to come in here like this. So when she gets right about here, I just go, and immediately they stop. Like, well, this bitch is getting off on it, and that's what you do. I mean, that's what I do.
Yeah.
And then she goes, I'm going to have to touch you down here. And I go, I can't wait. So excited. And they'll always ask me, do you want to have a private view? And I was like, no, let's make a spectacle. Yeah. They don't know how to, that freaks them out, because most people are like, yes, I do,
Yeah.
I'm like, no, let's do it in front of everybody. Let's go. Let's go.
That's great. That you're not letting it. Yeah.
Well, if I stayed, I would stay bothered if I constantly was upset about life.
Absolutely.
And I refuse to do that. And refuse to. There'll be people that'll see this and they'll hate me. Mm-hmm. And they don't know me.
Right.
Wow. And
I'm hoping that they'll listen to what you're saying and take heart and realize that it's not this demon that you think it is.
No.
You're not the Antichrist.
I checked, and I'm not. And I'm also...
I actually had the Antichrist on last week, if you saw that episode.
I saw, and it was interesting. That was a good one. I learned some stuff, yeah. But, they're their own niche, and I feel that what I do, we had our own... It's almost like taboo. Like what they do is a little taboo, and what I do is a little taboo. But now... we have come out and we're on television and, RuPaul's Drag Race and all this kind of stuff. And now, literally the Band-Aid has been ripped off. So, I see a lot of entertainers who just hate it. I had somebody I work with a lot of the RuPaul girls. And one of them who won season 4 RuPaul's Drag Race winner, Sharon Needles. Okay. Hugely popular. She's very like a... very Antichrist sort of person, like the 666 people. Yeah. And I've known her forever and whatever from Pittsburgh, and she came up to me and said, and was completely sincere and said, I just need to apologize to you for my drag canceling yours. And I was like, and she meant it in a sincere way that like RuPaul's Drag Race has kind of hurt what I do, because I am from an era where before the internet and television, we weren't on TV. So we were celebrities early on in the 80s and 90s, full-on celebrities. Mm-hmm. People would freak out when we came to their club. Okay. And we would come to these nightclubs and people were just like lined up. And I remember I was early on selling merch and signing photographs, 8x10s. And people were like giving me $5 for my signature, and I'm signing these away. And I remember my boyfriend at the time, he'd be like, you made like $1,000 selling t-shirts and stuff like that. And, in the 80s, $1,000, like 500,000, I was like, oh my God, I'm loaded. Yeah. And I'd make more sometimes than I'd make at the show off my pictures. Right. And, we did contests, we did drag pageants, because that's how you were known. If you were missed something attached to your, I call it, but my comparison is as seen on TV. If, that's how it makes a product great.
Yeah.
As seen on TV. And for me, it was, I had a crown and I won this crown and I now was, a group of people thought I was great enough to put this crown on my head and walk around for the year and be like, and so it made you just a little bit above the average.
Right.
And therefore you were paid more.
Okay.
And I love that part. So I was very monetarily motivated in this whole thing in the beginning and even now. I love what I do, but I know my worth. So I try to be.
It takes some people a long time to get there to know their worth.
It took me forever. I did so many $25 gigs. Yeah, back in the day. Wow. And I just go.
So explain more about how the drag race show canceled you or
well, in a way. So
shadowed you or whatever.
It overshadowed and therefore pushed us to the back. I was a pageant queen for one, and these people are more considered edgy, a lot of them. So they're not like picture perfect queens. They're a little rough around the edges, and that's what makes them mass appeal. So people were not interested in going to drag shows to support local drag as much because they were watching it on TV and then holding us to a standard where they are on television and they have a $100,000 budget.
Right.
And we have a $12 budget.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So suddenly all of my drag had to elevate to keep up. And, and the rhinestones and the jewels and the this and the that. And it just became, oh my God, what am I doing? So where I was, I used my brain and I went on the internet when all this first came out and I started seeing these interviews with these people and some of them were horrible. They were really bad interviewers.
Yeah.
And I thought, I need to do that. So I did that for a little while and interviewed a lot of the queens. And then from getting to know them, they were like, oh, you have a great personality. Or, I've done sales. I've been in cosmetics before and old retail girl. So because of that, I used that when they did like Drag Con and they would hire me to sell their merch.
Okay.
So I said, I want a percentage of what I sell.
Right.
That was fine. And then I was making a great living, and I was having so many people and making connections, and then working for other people, and then other projects pop up. And so the internet can be bad, but it can be great too. It can rip you apart.
Absolutely.
But we wouldn't have met. I mean, look, from Facebook. So
did Wolf Pup reach out to you and tell you about me?
He did not.
Oh.
No.
All right, Wolf Pup. What's up, buddy?
Sorry, he may have. I'm
glad that you just happened, because I know I wasn't your friend on there, and I'm glad my message just happened to pop up.
Every now and then I'll check that other.
Right. Me too.
And I just.
Most of it's junk, but.
Oh, if you saw mine, you would literally throw your phone out the window. But I just go, oh, yeah. And I saw yours, and I was like, oh, yeah. Oh, a podcast. I haven't done one of those in a minute. Yeah, let's do one. And here we are.
Yeah, that's it. Magic happened.
Yeah.
Yeah, I met him when I met you. You saw the picture.
From a year ago. Where was that?
That was a Phoebus Pride parade.
Oh, yeah. That was so fun. Yeah.
And I was out there just sort of networking and talking to people. And so I got my groovy wristband. And I connected with the Park Lawn Wood Funeral Home.
Okay.
In which they're always very actively involved in Pride stuff, which is great.
Well, gay people die. I don't know.
But I am now sort of their unofficial official DJ for all events they have. You think, well, how many events do funeral homes have? But they have a pet expo, a Pride-sponsored pet expo, where they have all kinds of tables out there selling merch and just educating people and rescue. And they also have a Christmas party that let's call DJ Chris,
I love that.
Yeah. So that was, honestly, I think that might have been the first time I've ever been to an actual drag experience of any kind.
Oh, really?
And it was fun. And
Oh,
DJ
wow.
Wolf Pup was up there on stage.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
you were performing. It was the first time I'd ever seen you perform.
Yeah.
But for some reason, you were on my radar way earlier, though. You just were popping up in my feed. And I could tell that you were sort of the queen of drag from the early on.
You know what's funny? Okay, so I used to work at the Rainbow Cactus years ago.
Yes.
And I kind of, not completely, there was somebody that was there before in the very beginning, but I kind of took it over and worked there many years and until I left. But when I was working there, I remember for shock value, I would really push the envelope and would wear things that I would not do now.
Okay.
And I'm talking like pasties and rip away, a very nightclub.
Yeah.
So they at that time they were adamant about calling me a guy. Okay. And so
The club.
they wanted, because the police would come by and they would be like,
I see.
you can't wear pasties. Like, he can.
I gotcha.
Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I said, well, if you're going to call me that, then, why do I even have to wear pasties? And they're like, you don't. I said, okay. So I used to do this song called Naked Without You. And I would come out totally covered up and I would rip down to just a cover over the front and over the butt. And that's it.
Wow.
And heels. So it was crazy for the time. I know, I would not do that now. Kids don't.
You paid your dues.
I did. So, but I remember FM 99. What were the morning guys?
Tommy and the Bull.
Tommy and the
Rumble.
Bull.
Yeah.
Tommy and the Bull. So Tommy and the Bull. So I had done the show on. I had Friday nights there, and I did the show on Friday night, and I did my naked number, and made $1 million. Was so happy. They tip you like crazy.
Yeah.
And I remember I was asleep, and I was dating a guy that was a Virginia Beach police officer at the time. So it was very scandalous. Like, oh my God, what? And he was like, he didn't care. He was like, I love her, and it is what it is. So we made a lot of headlines. Let's just say very scandalous.
Yeah.
And he comes in the next morning, and I'm asleep, and he wakes me up, and he says, Tommy and the Bull are talking about you.
Wow.
On the morning show.
Yeah.
And I was like, really? And that's just, for me locally, that was the time when I kind of went, well, this is kind of, I think a lot of people know me. And then it was everywhere I went, and then every place I go.
I think that was more to early, mid-90s, right?
Yes.
I actually, my first intern job in radio, I worked at 96X, and I worked with the Bull.
Yeah. Okay.
Henry the Bull Del Toro.
Yeah.
Rest in peace.
Rest in peace.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
96X.
That's pretty
yeah.
neat.
They had there was another, like a dance channel that was around for a while. And
On the radio?
Yeah. And it was like, I don't remember what it was, but it was like 92 point something or 94. I don't remember. But anyway, they had DJ Wild Cherry, and he was like a friend of mine. He was gay. But that was his thing, and he would make himself sound really gay when he was on there, and all this stuff. And he would have me on regularly, to call in,
right?
And he'd be like, "Oh my God, the infamous Jennifer Warner is on," and like he said, they want to give you do a thing on here all the time.
Yeah.
And I was just so busy working because I was working like 6 nights a week. I was running all the clubs in the area, and I had moved back from Florida, so I lived in Florida in the early to mid 90s, and then moved back. My father was ill, and then he passed in 99, and I just thought, I can't leave my mom here by herself, so, and I just never left. And, I've traveled all over the world, but stayed here in this area. And if nothing else, everybody knows me, good, bad, or indifferent, one way or another. I do a lot of drag brunches now because they're really popular. I have one in downtown Portsmouth at the Famous venue, and I do that on Sundays.
What's the name of the venue?
The Famous venue.
That's what it's called. Okay,
yeah.
Okay.
The Famous venue. Yeah.
One of my questions was why brunch?
Okay, listen. I started I was on the original cast of Rotation of Girls in Richmond, Virginia. And this was in the 90s, early early, like 2000, like 99 to 2000. Okay. And it was at Godfrey's, a gay bar in Richmond. And I was kind of a permanent, well, first I was like every other weekend, and then I was permanent on the cast. And we started doing drag brunches, and they were, people were losing their minds.
They weren't commonplace back then.
No, and I would say, drag is for nighttime. Look at all this makeup, and we don't look good during the day. What is wrong with you people? You know, it's like, no, we need dark rooms and a spotlight, you know, to make us look like girls. Like, this is crazy. And I just remember it being so good. And then they did double seating brunches. And then it was triple seating. And then we were doing dinner shows. Then they added Saturday, and we were doing the same on Saturdays. So you would work like 3 drag brunches and a dinner show, and then do it the next day.
Wow.
And we were average. I mean, we were making stupid money. And I remember I went to the movie theater up there, and they had bought an ad. And here they were, all of us girls in showgirl costumes with headpieces, and like, oh, come and see the best kept secret in Richmond.
You saw the ad in the theater?
Yeah, I was watching. Wow. Went to a movie, and I saw myself in the ad, and went,
wow.
And I was like, this is crazy. And it was just very popular. So from there, it kind of exploded all over the country.
Is the brunch thing like nationwide? Is
it
sort of
it's
just
everywhere.
Grown and evolved simultaneously? Okay.
Yeah.
Huh.
And I remember certain people were like, oh, I'm not getting up. You know, I'm a nighttime girl. You know, you sleep till 2, and I'm that sort of mentality. You know, you get in that routine. And I was like, these girls are making a lot of money. I'm doing it. I was like, so I would just force myself to go to sleep. You know, I'd do my show on Saturday night, would make them pay me right away, get in bed by 2 a.m., up at 7.
Yeah.
And then do the show, and I mean, makes tremendous money.
You do Vanguard, don't you?
I don't. I do the famous venue. I used to do Poor Girls every year. I was there for a long time. I left there. No, I jump around. I get bored. I'm an Aries. I get bored.
My wife is an Aries.
Oh my God, I get bored easily. So I can't stay anywhere forever. But when I'm there, I'm there. You know, I'm locked in.
Right.
But this new venue, with the famous venue, it's an old town. Portsmouth, and it's right next to the public house, connected, and it's a 3-story building. It's beautiful, Art Deco, beautiful chandeliers hanging, great food.
When do you do brunches there?
I'm there on Sundays, and I'm there once a month. We're testing it out, and it kind of jumps around a little bit. The next one is the 13th, so it's not this Sunday, but next Sunday.
Okay.
And I'm really excited because I bring in a lot of different people because I've worked all over the country. Right. So I can say, hey, if you're ever in my area and if they're around, like I have somebody that came in to last month because they did Busch Gardens. So I booked my thing on Sunday. So I did 3 shows at Busch Gardens, 3 meet and greets. Exhausted, went to bed, got up the next day and
3 in one day.
3 in one day at Busch Gardens, yeah.
Wow.
At what time we go on? Noon, 2:30, and 5:30. So we were all day, and then took it all off and switched out suitcases, changed the show, and then did drag brunch all day the next day. And then we went to the casino. Yes, Rivers Casino.
You know, I think that's the only time I've ever really gone to Portsmouth is for the casino.
Yeah.
Isn't it lovely?
I love it. I love it.
It's great.
I'm trying to get them to do a drag show
I think
there.
they absolutely
They
should.
need me.
Absolutely
Come
should.
on, Rivers Casino. I've given you enough of my dollars. I know. I had to dance for those dollars.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I love to work, and I mean, I go to the Outer Banks, and I fly all over, and I go to Vegas, and I'm getting ready to go to Nashville. Any major city I've worked in America.
Wow.
Every major city, including Hawaii. I'm going to Alaska in October. So
This will be your first time in Alaska?
Yeah, I've never been. We're doing a cruise. My wife and I are doing a cruise.
Oh,
so I'm excited. That'll be fun.
Yeah, my wife and I have always talked about we've never been on a cruise and always said we're going to do the Alaska one.
Yeah.
With no kids.
That's us.
No kids cruise.
No kids.
So
you have kids?
No.
No, me either.
I have chickens and ducks and pigs and rabbits and dogs and cats.
Yes, I have a dog.
Yeah.
I saved her from the SPCA. Norfolk SVA, shout out. Thank you. I love my Gigi.
What, mixed breed?
She's totally mixed, like me. Mixed. We're mixed. I'm mixed up. She's mixed. She's my little tripod. She had an accident and was hit by a car, and the owner relinquished her because they couldn't afford to do it. And so I go in to look at her dog. I had to put my other dog down, my dachshund, my Hannah Banana. I miss her. And I went in, I said, oh, it's time. And I'm looking down. They say, don't put your fingers in there because, they'll bite you or whatever. And it's just like all these pit bulls. And I know pit bull people, but, I don't want a pit bull. And so I'm terrified. All these dogs are rah, 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 rah. And I get to her and she just like comes up and I go, and I'm like, oh, well, I may lose this finger. I'll have to put this ring, to hide it. And I put it in there and she just licks my finger. And I thought, wow. So I tried to adopt her. And I don't know if you've tried to adopt a dog. You have to bring all this documentation. So she was like, okay, well, how much is your rent? And I said, I own. And, oh, well, I need the deed. And I said, nobody has a deed to their house anymore. It's digital.
This ain't the Old West.
Yeah. And I was like, it's digital. And she said, well, you need a copy. So I had to go down the next day, get a copy, and then come back. And then she let me read the paperwork. And I was kind of like not sure on the fence whether I didn't know if she'd have problems or whatever. So I read it. And I burst into tears, and I don't cry easily. So I burst into tears like, oh, I know, it's terrible. She was, hit by a car. And I was like, no. The day it happened was my birthday.
Oh.
So I'm like, this is my dog.
Yeah.
Like, I'm a signs person.
Yeah, for sure.
And I was like, this is my dog. So little Gigi with her little back missing right leg and
back right leg.
Yeah, but she hops around. She's my little hopper.
I've seen so many videos on TikTok and YouTube of these dogs that they really act like there's not a thing wrong with them.
She has no problem.
Yeah.
It's me. I'm over there like, oh, yeah. I'm helicopter mom over there. Oh my God, are you okay? And she just jumps up, every now and then when she's going up the stairs though, I think she forgets and she'll get, and it'll just be like this. Boop. And then she like pops back up.
Pops right back up.
Yeah, she's like, oh yeah, that's gone.
We have 2 Chihuahuas. Just celebrated their third birthday.
So, so cute. She's like a terrier mix. And so she looks like Benji. Is that an old reference for my old people?
Oh no, we all know Benji.
Yeah, I don't know. These new kids. They don't
Everybody knows Benji and Herbie Goes Bananas and the Big Shaggy Dog. These are all modern day references, aren't they?
No, not anymore.
Why are we so old?
I don't know about you. I'm eternally 29, so speak for yourself.
I'm old, but I'm embracing it.
Yeah. Yes.
And I was interviewed by Ron Jeremy, and
who I've met.
Yeah,
who I've met. He's nice.
He is nice. I met him a couple times. He's a little bit of a stand-up comedian too.
Yeah, he is. Yeah. He is. He's funny.
And so I feel bad for him in his situation now. They're talking about putting him in a mental. I
saw him in Key West, and we went bar hopping.
Did you?
And he said he liked me because I didn't ask for an autograph or a photo, and I never pulled my phone out.
I could see that. I could see any celebrity being grateful for that.
Yeah, and I said, well, you get enough of that. I do too. So I get it.
Yeah.
I get it.
Yeah.
It's so nice when somebody just has a conversation with you and it's not like,
right.
Okay, now we have to take a photo. And I mean, I'm guilty. Oh my God, I'm so guilty of it. And I've done it. I've met tons of celebrities. And some I had to ask for a photo. Like I met LaToya Jackson and how do you not? I was like, I'm a huge fan of your family and, and all this. And can I
the biggest thing I remember about LaToya was her psychic hotline.
Remember? Oh my God, the psychic. Yeah.
I think that was probably also around the early 90s.
She did a Vegas run too for a while, and she had like a snake, and she always wore
a real snake.
Yeah, like a big python, and it was bizarre.
Yeah,
but fun. Yeah.
Yeah. Huh. That's cool. Let me see if there's any other questions here that I want to hit before. How do you promote yourself? Is it mainly through social media?
Sure. Mostly, Instagram, Facebook. I mean,
isn't it wonderful that most of those are free?
Yeah.
Unless you choose for some of the ads, but that's how I do everything with my business too.
I'm Jennifer Warner 3000.
What's the 3000 about?
Because that's how old I feel.
Are you serious? That's why you added that?
Yeah. I was like, Well, because everybody was like, Jennifer Warner 1 wasn't there. Jennifer Warner, do I spell out 1 O-N-E?
Right.
There's a doctor, that's Jennifer Warner, and I'm so sorry, ma'am, because I know you're not the number one Googled, and I am, and I pop up when you say Jennifer Warner, and it's just like, I know she's just shaking, like, why my name, but yeah, so I do a lot of stuff like that.
Is the rainbow cactus still around?
It is in a transition period because it's moving from that.
Oh, it's still
place.
moving? It's been moving a while, hasn't it?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, and those poor girls that work there, thank God I left, because...
Is there someplace else for them to go in the meantime?
Kind of. Yeah, they call me for brunches, and I try to book them at my... But, I mostly work at straight venues because that's who...
Right.
This is working,
So what's their projected date of, or is it still just...
I've heard, why did you not open in June? Oh my God, I don't want to rip them apart. Sorry, guys.
Right,
but why didn't you open in Pride? Why didn't you
perfect.
open July 4th? Groundhog Day? I don't care. Whatever, Mother's Day, any day to open. The gays need you. Open.
Yeah. I've never been. My wife has been for some sort of bachelorette party or something, and it seems so intriguing. I'd love to go sometime when they get back up and running.
Let me know. They're moving to Lynn Haven Parkway South to an old place that used to be a gay bar called the Ambush. I used to work there too. And they've gutted the place and they're just fixing it up and trying to bring it up to code or whatever they do. I don't speak male stuff. I don't know. Whatever it is you guys do with hammers. And they're trying to make it right. And so they're going to open. And yeah, let me know. I'll meet you and your wife up there.
A lot of times, there's some questions I want to ask you. A lot of times, I don't know if you've seen the celebrities when they interview them, they sort of rapid fire questions.
Sure.
And they answer pretty quick. And yeah.
Let's go.
So
I'm ready.
Let's back up a little bit here. Dance choreography. Do you do? How's that work? Does you make up your own moves, or how do you?
I do. I watch a lot of videos and I copy other people sometimes. And take a little piece from everybody. I don't, take their whole act. But if it's a big performance, then we have a choreographer. I'll hire someone to set it up, and then that includes backup dancers, paying them, hotels, travel. It's a whole shabil.
I was just thinking about that outfit that you had on at Busch Gardens with the I guess it was sort of like butterfly wings, but it was lights.
Oh yeah, it all lit up. Yeah,
that was so magnificent.
Thank you.
So magnificent. I mean, you probably have to be sort of careful in setting that up and making sure it stays in place until Yeah,
I practice many times in my living room, and my dog. That's what Gigi. She sees the worst. She's out there. She's like, they pay you to do this. What do you do? I just feel like she's so judgy.
My wife wanted me to ask you.
Yeah.
You know how where do you get some of your fabulous outfits and accessories and wigs?
They're all what's a wig? They're all custom. Everything I do now is custom.
Okay.
And I use a lot of different designers. I literally put on my Facebook page just a few days ago. I said, who is the new designer I can go to, or someone I can go to? And they just flooded my comments. So it's so easy now, and I'm just like, oh yeah. And then they started reaching out to me, privately, and they're like, oh, I heard you're looking for. And I literally have 2 designers are working on stuff right now for me. Should be done in the next few days.
Yeah.
I constantly want new stuff, because in the 80s you could tour with 5 outfits.
5 outfits.
And just keep hitting the the trail. By the time you got back, they would have forgotten. You can wear it again. Now, if you wear it once on Instagram, then you're burned at the stake if you wear it again.
What do you must have hundreds or have had in your
thousands.
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 What do you do with them when they're not worn anymore? Or
you refurbish them. I'm really gotten good with designers to send things and redo. I'm having a gown redone into a costume right now. It's beautiful. It's antique gold. It's sheer like this, and it has fleur-de-lis design and beads.
Oh,
and it's all fleur-de-lis, and then I've added, it had a huge bottom. It was a gown. I had that taken off. It's now a wrap. With the beading around it. It has a big snap in it for a reveal.
Yeah.
And then the whole bottom is fringe bugle beads hanging So
I
that's what you
imagine
do.
Barbie must be pretty big right now.
It
And
is.
pink
I mean, I've
and-
always done Barbie. I've done
Yeah.
Barbie before it was cool.
Yeah.
I've done everything before it's cool.
Okay, so it's custom made, most of it. Let's see.
For sure.
Dance choreography, lip syncing, and you say you do some real singing too.
I do. I
Yeah.
do. Hmm.
Okay, and are these usually cover songs of popular songs that people know?
Yeah,
Okay.
sing-alongs. I think that's what drag really pretty much, especially brunch, is mostly like sing-alongs. Like, you don't want a song that's like, oh, this was only released in Uruguay. I mean, what? Nobody
Right.
knows it. Like, do Whitney Houston, I want to dance with somebody. What's wrong with you?
You know what I heard for the first time when I was at your show
Mm-hmm.
in Phoebus was that Alaska Thunderfuck.
Yeah.
Boy, that was intense.
Well, she tells you how to tip and what to do.
Clapping fans.
Yeah.
Throwing shade or something.
Right.
Yeah.
And she says, make sure you use flash. And I didn't do all this for you not to take photography. And, tipping is not just customary, it's expected. And,
Right.
and if you have any questions, tip these men. That's what she always said. So I'm lucky. I know Alaska very well.
Really?
Yeah, Alaska.
Wow.
Funny story. They used to come to my show because Alaska and Sharon Needles used to be lovers, and they were together. And I used to work in Pittsburgh, and I won a big contest, Miss Tri-State All-Star, yay, up there. And they would come and be in the audience. And they were
Okay.
kind of like my groupies, and
Yeah.
they'd help me, give me money and stuff. And then I remember when Sharon won, I was like, oh my God, what is happening? This show, like, you're not that good. And like, she's amazing now, so creative, but I just didn't see it at the time because
Right.
I knew her from the beginning. And I just thought, this is drag now? What's happening? So yeah, it kind of sucker punched me too, RuPaul's Drag Race, a little bit, because I thought when it first came out, I was like, oh, that'll never last. This, boy, was I wrong.
Yeah. I think my wife and I watched the first couple of seasons.
Yeah.
Way back when. I think it's so cool that you found your calling so long ago, and you've been
Yeah.
able to work at it and master it for so many years. Like I said, some people never find their calling, or even me. I wish that I would have gotten into DJing way earlier in my life. I was just
Right.
sort of directionless for so long. I knew I wanted to get in broadcasting and radio somehow.
Yeah.
But this podcasting is just such a passion of mine. I do everything for free.
And it's great. I
Yeah.
mean, you're so good at it.
Thank you.
And that's your passion. For me, like back in the day, you said I found my calling early. I did, but every about 3 to 4 years, I'd have a freak out moment. And I'd be like, oh my God, I don't have a job. Oh my God, what am I going to do? Right?
Right.
So I would go to hair school. I went to hair school.
Okay.
And it helped me in styling hair and doing all that. But, I never did anything with it because I was making more money doing shows.
Right.
Then I went to nail school. I was like, okay, I can do nails. If anything happens, if the world comes to an end, if you need a nail tech, it's me,
These are all skills you can use in your line of work, though.
Yeah. And I wanted to be an esthetician. It was too hard, but I wanted to do it. I really did. It was there. And then comedy is like how I feel that this is the only thing that may take me away from drag.
Do you really enjoy the comedy?
Love it.
Love it.
I love it.
Love
I
it.
love a raw audience
Yes.
who is just, they're invested. They want to know your story.
Yes.
They want to laugh at you if you're not funny. They want to laugh with you if you are.
I could totally see that.
I love it. I just love it. And it's a different kind of vibe than doing a drag show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I am fortunate enough to work as a DJ full time. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't have any.
Oh, wow.
Not a lot of DJs can say that.
Sure,
I'm
I
a
know
resident
some.
DJ at a
Yeah.
local club. I have enough weddings and I do conventions and
Yeah.
other really big events to where, but I still keep my foot in the door.
Yeah.
As a waiter. And like
you go.
once a month, I'll go at this restaurant and I'll just work a shift.
Yeah.
That way I can stay on the payroll. And
I get it.
just in case weddings and everything else dry up, I have that skill. And I've been doing that for over 20 years on and off.
Speaking of that, like, how did you do during COVID?
Well, when COVID first hit, I jumped right on top of the unemployment. So I took a 4.5-month vacation.
That's nice.
And then I went right back to waiting tables until things sort of really, it was almost a year later before the DJ things started happening again.
Yeah.
And now I don't feel like I work for a living.
Well, you know what's strange? It's like drag was really popular during the pandemic because people were locked up and they would come to our shows, but we would have to wear these crazy masks that were clear. And you'd breathe. The first 2 seconds you were out there, it would fog up.
Oh, yeah.
So I did all of my, I'm going to be honest, the entire 2 years that I performed, I never lip synced once because nobody could see your mouth.
Right.
And I would just try out new songs because it didn't matter. I was like, Dua Lipa. I don't know any of the words. I'm like, I'm going to do Nicki Minaj now, and
That's great.
it was great. And drag brunches were packed.
Yeah.
We'd have to turn people away, and that 6-foot thing was crazy. And
What 6-foot thing?
well, you had to be like 6 feet apart.
Right.
And I remember I had a thing that took money, and I would take money from people, and I'd be
like a little shark grabber thing?
Yeah, and I had a gown made, and it said 6 feet.
Yeah.
It said 6 feet, and I'd be like, and I'd take it, and I'd put it in a bucket, and I'd have somebody walk behind me, and I'd go, thank you, just picking cabbage. There it was.
Wow. That's fun. Let's see. Let me throw some more at you. Let's see. We talked about if you still get nervous. Do you still get nervous even now?
I do. I got a little nervous for this because I don't.
What?
I don't know. You could.
I could have
been a serial killer.
I could have been a serial killer.
But I mean,
Absolutely.
what are the chances of 2 of those?
Well,
in
the
one
show
room?
ain't over.
Yeah. And what are the chances of 2 of those in one room? Come on now.
Real quick, you can answer these quickly.
Yeah.
Do most of the girls get along? Do they argue over who gets to go on first, last, and maybe do girls ever fight over the same song?
Yes and no. A lot of the girls don't get along. It's a jealousy thing. And I've thought that my whole life. My mom helped me get over that. She said, "Oh, they're going to be jealous. It is, it's how you react." So I have some great friendships with some of the queens. And others, I wouldn't pee on to if they were on fire. So there you go. It is what it is.
I would think maintaining a good relationship with you in the drag community is very important because you are a mover and a shaker. You make things happen. You offer these girls work.
I do, a lot.
So
I book a lot of girls.
Don't get on Warner's bad side. You've been
warned. That's right. Speaking of...
let's see. There it is.
You've been warned.
Hey, can you give us a quick fan flap?
Yes, I can.
Clap. There it is. There it is.
We need it closer. Yes.
I'm going to learn that skill someday. I think that's fun. Let's see. Do you ever perform with live musicians?
I do.
Really?
I do.
Okay.
I do sometimes when I do live work or whatever. It depends on the budget. If the budget allows to have that, I will.
If the venue is willing to hire you all plus a live.
Yeah,
okay.
or pay me to be able to hire,
Okay.
the zeros have to match up for those things to happen.
Have you ever had to deal with protesters outside?
Yes.
Can you tell us about that?
Oh, I love them. They're so fun because they're always so misguided.
You're going to hell and then they have this huge list of things you're going to hell for.
Yeah, and they're usually, challenged themselves in some area that would send them to hell. So I'm always like looking at them like, but you're overweight. Wait.
Like those Westboro Baptist Church psychos.
They've petitioned before.
Really? Oh.
Yeah, fought us with the signs and God hates fags and all that. And I'm just like, y'all are terrible people. The only problem I have is the kids. They have their kids with them.
Isn't that sad?
And they're filming everything, and they do that so you'll attack them, and then they will sue you, and that's how they continue the I call it the tour of hate.
Yeah, it is.
And
you've got to think of creative ways to deal with them.
I do. Well, they've called me everything in the book. And I'm always like, I'll tell you a funny story. So I was hosting Las Vegas Pride, and we're doing the nighttime parade, and it's huge. I mean, AT&T, like everybody is there. It's huge. And I'm the MC, and they're telling me, listen, the Westboro Baptist Church is they've got the bull horns, and they're at the end of the parade, and they're screaming, da da da. Don't say anything to them, da da da. This was one of the first times I thought I was getting fired, because I began to the hand began to shake because I thought, you're an Aries. Don't do this to why do you ruin your career? Yeah. Why? Just shut up. Don't say anything. So they're screaming, God hates fags and all that. And so they get to, as they're coming up, and I say and we have a whole book of sponsor of each one. So I get to the last one, and then I go, well, look, we have a last-minute entry. We'd like to thank the Westboro Baptist Church for supporting every gay pride across the country. Thank you so much. You're always there for us, always supporting. And they're like, no, losing their minds. Yeah. And I'm like, thank you for always showing up for us. Even when our friends don't sometimes, you're always there. You're a beacon of hope.
Oh, that's
thank you so much.
Did you just think of that at the moment?
Yeah.
That's great.
So I was going to get fired, right? There was a whole thing about it. There was a meeting.
Okay.
But then the newscasters, they were covering it.
Okay.
And I was on every channel, and they were like, oh my God, look what she did. And I had got this huge, they were calling into, who is this person? And I got all these numbers following me on Instagram and Facebook and all that. And then they brought me in and they said, well, we told you not to say anything. And I thought, well, this is where I get fired. This is it. I'm looking around for a bag to pack my stuff. Right. And they're like, but people are calling and they love you.
Yeah.
And people are just doing this. They love it.
That is so great.
And that kind of solidified me for a long time to be working in Las Vegas. And it opened up a door for me. So sometimes going against the grain works, you know. Don't always do as they say, you know.
You didn't let them win.
I mean, and I use comedy because that's how you have to do it. So.
I don't know why I have this stupid question.
Yeah.
About shaving.
Sorry, I don't shave. I shave my legs. That's it.
Are you available for exclusive private events? Like if somebody just wanted to hire
I am, as long as it's not in the back of a van down by the river. Yeah, I do, bar mitzvahs and child parties and whatever you want.
I'll do all of that.
I'll do all of it. But like I said, I know my audience. I'll show up dressed as Barney if you need me to, if the check is right. I love to do events. I host a lot of prides. I host contests. I'm a judge for pageants, both cisgender women, drag performers, trans, everything. I literally have emceed every kind of contest you can imagine, including the mermaid. Ocean View or Mermaid Festival, which was wild.
Yeah, I'll bet.
And it was a lot of fun. But and then Busch Gardens, and now that's I've worked with Caesar's Palace Entertainment in Vegas, so we've done a lot of events for them. I've just done a lot of events over the years.
What do you do for fun after or before shows and on your days off?
Sleep.
Oh, are you that busy?
I'm that tired.
You must have some hobbies or some fun things to do that's just completely separate.
Botox. No. I honestly, I've been booked solid since March.
Yeah.
And June is like hell week for me. Yeah. It's hell month. Yeah. I love it. I love my gays. Love you. But it's so busy and I'm doing so much. And I'm learning now to say to some things, I can't do it, Yeah. I'm turning into an old lady a little bit right before my eyes. I'm like, oh my gosh, pick and choose. And I find if you don't say yes to everything, then you say yes to the right things. Right. And you're more present and you're better.
That's true.
But it's hard when you want your name out there and you want to do everything in the world,
Right. And you're in demand and people want to pay you.
Yeah. I mean, this was hard to do this today. I've had off 2 days. I had off Saturday and Sunday, and I rarely am off a Saturday and Sunday. And I was off, and then here we are Monday. Hi.
Boom. Just like that. We made these arrangements yesterday, and she's here today.
Here I am. Hi.
Let's see. Here we go. This is a good one. If they were to ever do a movie or biopic of your life, who would you want to play you?
Who would I want to play me? Oh, my God. It would have to be Cher. Yeah, I
All
want
right.
Cher because I believe that when the world ends, it'll be cockroaches, Cher, and me. That's it. And I'll put, I can play her too. We both had about the same, facial work done. I think she would be great because she's a great actress, good singer. She could do a great soundtrack if the movie was horrible.
And save it by the
And
soundtrack.
save it. Like, I know the movie wasn't great, but
Yeah,
look
Cher
at the
is great.
soundtrack, Yeah, she's controversial too, and I love that. She says stuff that I wish I could sometimes.
My wife loves Witches of Eastwick
Me too.
and the one with Nicolas Cage and her. Romance. Moonstruck.
Yeah. Snap out of it.
Yeah. She
Yeah.
introduced me to that film not too long ago, and now we have it on repeat. We
Yeah.
love it. Let's see if there were ever. Okay. Are you religious at all? Do you go to church? Is there ever a problem or conflict with your faith or beliefs? And are there churches that are more welcoming to the LGBT community than others?
I'm so glad you asked that. I recently did an interview, and it was with one of the news channels, and it was asking about all the hate that's popped up in the world against drag and performers, and we were trying to figure out where to do it, and somebody had hit me up, a pastor that's at the gay church, the MCC church in Norfolk, and we actually did it there, and then he invited me to come to in Virginia Beach to like a bunch of different pastors from different gay churches all came and
Wow.
did preach that evening, and I came and I felt like royalty because he calls me out, and like, oh, this is great, and I thought, no, this is about you guys, not about me, and but I love that. I love any kind of caring and love that transcends gender or your sexual orientation.
That's something really important, to be able to be a person of faith and all that, and still live the lifestyle that
Yeah.
you do, and they can coexist just like science and faith can
Sure.
exist. There's
I just think it's about, are you a good person? Be a good person. We're all good and bad. We all have a good side and a bad side.
absolutely.
And I think the good has to outweigh the bad. We're all sinners.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to get religious with you guys, but we're all sinners. But, try to sin less. Try to be a good person. Try to help others. Try to do the right thing.
And don't be so judgmental.
That's what made me good, though. You look at the bad things. Like when the gays judged me so hard in the early years, I knew that you had to be good before you went out. Like, okay, make sure everything's correct.
Right.
Because they're going to be, they'll be watching this too. And that's okay, but it teaches you to be a better performer.
Let's see. I'm skipping over some of these because we've already
Yeah.
answered them in the interview. Your thoughts on gender fluidity, neutral, and people that don't identify as any specific gender.
Yeah.
And then is Demi Lovato the one that
Yeah,
sort of
she's
was
non-binary.
Yeah. What are your?
And so she's not a she, they are they. They are non-binary.
They are
now.
non-binary.
Right.
Okay.
I think, I come from an era, right? So it made no sense to me in the beginning because I was uneducated. And to me, when I came out, either you like men, you like women, or you like both. That's it. 3 choices on the menu.
Right.
Now the menu is crazy. It's like everything in the world is on there. And you know what? At first I was like, this is too much. It made no sense to me.
Yeah.
But as I've really gotten into it, I learned that people just want to be recognized. That's all.
Yeah.
Recognize me for what I believe, that I am non-binary, my pronouns are this and that. I've done jokes for years about pronouns. My joke was when my dad, when I first transitioned, I had moved back home. And I had a job and whatever. And if you would call the house and ask for Jennifer, you'd say, hello, may I speak to Jennifer? And my dad would say, he'd always clear his throat. They're not here. Yeah, it was always they're not here.
They're not here.
I was always there, okay, I'll tell them you called. it was never. And then eventually, he was okay with it and learned that this wasn't just,
well, that was kind of respectful of him.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, especially during that time. It was the 80s. I mean,
Right.
he, whatever. And he let me live there and all that. But yeah, I find that now people just want to be recognized as how they feel and who they are.
Right.
And I do believe that gender is not, has nothing to do with your sex. I really do believe that. And that was really hard for me to understand at first, because if you have a penis, to me, you should be a man. And if you have a vagina, you should be a woman. But I know lots of women who really feel like men. And I know lots of men who really feel like women. And I know lots of people that take it non-surgical or surgical and to accomplish whatever goal that they feel that they are. So it's really about just being recognized and respected.
Right.
Those are the two things.
Sure.
Recognized first, respected, of course.
Absolutely.
And that's all it is. And that's what I do. And I mess up all the time. And I'm part of the gay alphabet, and I mess up all the time. I'll call someone he. I just did it with Demi Lovato, and I said she, and it's they. So see,
I was waiting, this is probably about 5 years ago, I was waiting on a table, and there was a person there, and I said, I'm used to saying sir and ma'am.
Sure.
Would you like some more of this or whatever? And I said, so would you like some more of this, sir? I mean, ma'am. I mean, sir. I literally did that.
Yeah.
And I turned beet red. I didn't even wait for a response from the person. I just ran away. And I was hoping they wouldn't address the issue and not bring it up. And I just crawled into a little ball, and I was so embarrassed.
But it's how you handle it too. I mean, I've been called a gender that I'm not. Of course, I've been called he, and I always say, "Oh wow, so you think I'm male?" And then I'll say, "Well, then I need that pay to go up." And that it blows them away. Yeah. I need my pay to be raised,
Right.
And then that opens a whole nother conversation about equal pay. But I just think it's funny. I'm like, and I had a boyfriend, and he had a real hard time with it when we were on the road. He was like, "You're a woman. Why do they keep saying he?" And I'm like, "Because they're used to drag queens that are boys that get in drag and da da da." And I'm trying to explain it to him, and I finally said, "Listen, if they call me a zebra, am I a zebra?"
No.
I'm not a zebra. And he goes, "Yeah." And I said, "These are just words." And the thing, and right, wrong, or indifferent, but the thing that helped me get through it at that time was the money.
Right.
Because I was like, I make what a lawyer makes a year. What are you talking about? And I didn't have to go to college. Like, this is crazy.
But you know what? If you are with a friend of yours, and one of you has the tail end of a zebra on, and the other one has the front end of a zebra, and somebody addresses you as a zebra, why not just simply respect the fact of how they're presenting themselves, and if it's just go in that direction. Why is it hurting you?
My jokes were my pronouns.
I want to call them out.
Yeah. Too many people.
So they know I know.
Yeah, too many people are trying to be in other people's bedrooms. What people do in their bedroom is none of anyone's business. How you live your life is none of my business, and likewise. But people feel some sort of superiority, that they feel that they have to govern everything, but yet they hide behind, we live in America, and I want, God forbid you tell somebody what to do with their guns or something, but yet you're allowed to tell someone how to raise their children, whether they should, if they think that their children are transgender. I wish my parents had noticed it. They knew something was different. I wish they had the tools to be able to do something when I was younger. Yeah. But they didn't, and that's okay, because I have life experience. Yeah.
Sometimes that's what you need.
Yeah. Well, my mom apologized to me years after I was grown up because she forced me to play football. Yeah.
Wow.
And she was like, "I'm so sorry I made you do that." I was like, "No, it was good for me. I learned when something's hard, you push through."
Right.
And this is not for the weak.
Right, for sure.
You have to be strong. You're going to get hit from every corner. And I thanked her for it. I thank you for making me play football and fight other guys on the football field. I hated it. But luckily I was tall and, whatever, I could do it. But it was just so wild to me that she held on to that guilt. That's guilt, and you have to release somebody of that.
Yeah.
I mean, why let her run around with that for the rest of her life?
Yeah, you did that. You released it.
Yeah.
It just blows my mind when you were telling me earlier about how you and your wife were, that people asking you about your sexual, how do you do it and stuff. You wouldn't do that with a regular heterosexual couple. It's like, I don't know, people when they hear gay, that's like the first thing. Well, they do sex different. Let's hear all about it. I gotta know.
None of your business.
Right.
Yeah.
It's just they're people.
Mm-hmm. Live and let live.
Yeah.
That's how I live. But I am nosy. So I call myself a transvestigator because I'm trans and I'm nosy. So I'm a transvestigator. So I don't want to know what you do in your bedroom, but I want to know things about your life because I'm nosy.
Yeah.
That's just me. I can't help it.
That's a lot of people.
I can go to, I play that game, where you sit and you watch people and you try to figure out what they do for a living. And, I've always thought that was hilarious. I do a thing in my show called Everybody Looks Like Somebody.
Okay.
Let's play, and then I go walk around the room and, everybody, oh, look, it's, whatever. Whoever from wherever, like if it's three white ladies, it's the Dixie Chicks, ladies and gentlemen, give it up for, or whatever, if it's a well-dressed African-American woman, oh, ladies and gentlemen, oh, thank you so much. You're so busy. Thank you for coming. Michelle Obama. Thank you. And sometimes they laugh, sometimes they don't, sometimes it's offensive. And
do you ever try to sort of guess the line of work that they're in too?
Oh, all the time.
Do you ever hit the nail on the head?
Yes.
Yeah.
I do. And sometimes, and then I make up stuff.
Right.
I go, okay, this is what you really do. If you weren't a librarian.
Yeah.
You would be a fluffer at whatever, blah, 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 some of your work. And so that's fun. That's fun to do too.
I'm not a fluffer. I've been with fluffers. Let's see. Tell us about the importance of Pride Month and the whole. There's a couple of questions I want to ask you that sort of wrap it up.
Okay.
Because we have hit the 2-hour mark, and the longer we go, the more difficult the editing process is.
Got you.
So I want to try to maybe. These are two wrapping up questions. One of them is, what message would you like to get out there for people that have a negative view or impression of drag performers?
Right. I have a lot to say, but I'm going to shorten it and just say I wish people would first, before you judge, would come to a show and see what it's about. And I promise you'll leave your troubles at the door. I always say that. The world's a scary, mean place. So you're in a safe place. You can have a good time. I don't suggest you stand up during my show because drag queens flail around and you're liable to get a size 12 heel upside your head. And nobody has time for that or the insurance. But, I always say, have a good time. Love is love. Love each other. And I do another thing, too, where I make everybody in the room, I go, okay, here's the thing. I'm sure there's not one person in here that knows every single person in this room. But this is the time that I want you to get up, stretch your legs, and go to the table next to you and introduce yourselves. And
they do that.
And they do it. And they meet each other. And then I go, when they all sit back down, I go, okay, now, guess what? We're all friends. And friends watch out for each other. Yeah. Friends love each other. I love you guys immensely. I do that like almost every show I do. And it's amazing how people gravitate to each other and then they were actually want to sit near each other when they come back to brunches or shows. So that's nice. All it is. That's my message is that I'm just there trying to entertain, trying to spotlight artists, music choices that I listen to the music, I interpret it in a certain way, I perform a number. It is entertaining, it's glitz and glam, it's sexy, it's fun, it's provocative, it's controversial, it's pop culture, And we're rock stars now. So, like, come on, get on board. We're a lot of fun. And we hardly ever pay for drinks. So, come on, hang out with us.
Probably part of the reason that I have never had an issue with the gay community is that everyone that I've encountered in my entire life has been warm and welcoming and friendly and happy. I don't know if the happy is always an act or not, but
sure it is.
I've just never... It's always been a positive experience.
Yeah.
Always.
Yeah.
I guess I'm fortunate, you know.
Yeah, and I'm sure that people have had bad experiences. I mean, humans are humans.
Absolutely.
And we're going to, you know, there's bad humans in the gay community, in trans, drag, everything. I just feel that everybody should try to find the good in someone and understand that what you do for a living does not constitute who you are completely as a person.
Right.
So get to know each other. There's probably like things that you would have a good time with. I have a lot of people who meet me. They'll force their boyfriend or husband to come to the drag brunch, and he's just hating it. And you can just see him just bitter. And then the show starts, and by the end of the show, he's like coming up to me, knuckling me, and doing all this, like, you know,
so cool.
and saying, "Wow, you're really funny." And I'm like, "Well, I'm a comedian, so I better be funny."
Yeah.
And he's like, "Oh, you do comedy?" "I do." "Where do you do it?" I was like, "Everywhere. Your house." Are you asking me out on a date? Your wife is right there. You know, that do that kind of stuff. But
that's great.
And then you have a nice correlation with people.
Isn't that a magical feeling to completely turn somebody around like that and just give them
the thing that I love to do the most?
Yeah.
I love somebody that's uncomfortable, to try to make them feel comfortable. It's just, I mean, I'm hospitality all the way.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Thanks.
Let's see. And this is sort of the same, but just tell us about the importance of Pride Month and the whole Pride movement in general.
Yeah. I do a lot of
Touch
prides
upon
all over the country. And Pride is so important, I feel, for the younger people that are coming out or wondering about themselves. And you need to see positive representation of other gay people if you're possibly, or if you're an ally. A lot of people come and their children have just recently come out. I can't tell you, if you could see my inbox on Facebook and Instagram, and it's all about, you know, "Oh my gosh, I don't know how to speak to my child just came out and as trans, and and I overreacted, and now I don't know how to fix it." And, you know, and I'm playing therapist.
Yeah. How do you keep up with all that?
I don't. I don't, and I wish I had the time to always. So if I didn't answer you, believe me, I was probably gigging somewhere, and it wasn't on purpose. But
if there are young people out there that need support, what direction would you steer them in?
I always push people to the LGBT Center, and there's one in Norfolk, and there's one in Newport News, and there's an LGBT Center. You can Google it, and and they help with a lot of things. If you're transitioning, if you just need to speak to somebody, psychological, you know, psych help, they can guide you to the right. It's like one building where they can guide you to the right path.
Right.
Because so many people have some really strong problems sometimes when they're about to come out. So they try to mask it through bad behavior. And that can be drugs or alcohol or all kinds of things. And a place like the LGBT Center can really go see Stacy. She's down there.
And a lot of these services are free?
They are. A lot of those are. Most of those are. It's a community-based thing.
Right.
You don't have to be gay to go. They do a lot of outreach for homeless and gay people that are have been put on the streets, and, you know, there's homelessness. So there's just a vast amount of things that they do, and also transgender, helping you with hormone replacement and all kinds of things. So,
and there's just so many more places like this that are being created and opening across the country in our modern world, which weren't there back in the 80s.
And you can find them literally on the
touch of a
with that Google button. Just do it.
Not true. Here's a touchy one.
Okay.
I would love to know your thoughts.
Oh God, I know where this is going.
Thoughts on men that have transitioned to women that perform in women's sports.
Well, I feel that it's a little bit of an unfair advantage. That's what I thought at first. But have you seen some of these female athletes? Like, they would kick my ass in 5 seconds. So I'm like, I just feel that if you're going to be accepted as a transgender person and a woman, if we're male to a female, then you should be allowed to do sports with other females. I do feel that, at first I thought about this and I thought, well, maybe you should have like a handicap like you do when you play golf or something. And then I thought, well, that's absurd. Like you want equality, but you want to put stipulations on it. So as hard as it is to hear, I think that if you have transitioned and you want to play sports, you should be allowed to do so. Is it going to be hard for some people to wrap their head around that are not dealing with those things? Yes. And if so, then don't play with people that are transgender. I don't know.
Switching that around, what if a woman it was just the other way around, and then she wanted to participate in men's sports? Is that, yeah.
I think it's okay. I think in drag pageants that I do, they've opened it up to people that have had surgery, full surgery, preoperative, postoperative, whatever. The world, it is a changing, and you have to just let people be. And you're going to have bad apples, of course you are, that are going to come in. A obvious cross-dresser man that's a man that is not trying to transition in a locker room with women.
Okay, yeah.
Nobody wants that. I don't want that. I'm not saying that that's what it is, but I do feel that you have the right to play these sports, but you also have the right to not participate with that person if you don't want.
True. Yeah.
Everyone has the right to. Nobody's forcing you with a gun to do this.
Right.
But I do think it's a hot button, and I do think it's controversial, and I do think that we all want to be accepted, but at the same time, I just wish you wouldn't do it. But, it is what it is. And then you have, that idiot Caitlyn Jenner up there. So I don't know.
Speaking of Caitlyn Jenner, I got a few other names I want to just quickly throw at you and get your thoughts on them. We talked about Mrs. Doubtfire and RuPaul.
Yeah.
Are you familiar with Eddie Izzard?
I am.
Isn't he the best?
She Sally is.
Yes.
Yeah.
Is that her name?
Yeah.
Sally.
Yeah. I think that's it. I think that's what it changed to. But yeah. She's pretty funny.
Yeah.
She's pretty funny, and I think
I think her
I've never
comedy's-
met her, and I think but I've seen her work,
Yeah,
and I hope you see this. I'm a fan.
Yeah.
I think she's great. I think she's definitely rough around the edges in a lot of ways, and that makes her a target for some people because they think if you transition, if you're pretty, then that kind of makes sense. But if you're not as feminine, then that makes no sense to a lot of people.
Right.
I remember my father saying that to me. Well, at least you're pretty. And I went, what does that mean? And it took me a long time to understand that in his mind, if you looked like a man, then, okay.
Yeah.
But I just... Yeah, there we are. But I do like her a lot. Okay. I think she's amazing. And
just to do a
Dylan, are you going to talk about Dylan?
Not yet.
Okay, got it.
A real quick thing. I know I mentioned this on previous podcasts, but I'm going to be part of September 16th and 17th. I'm going to be part of a horror convention at the Hampton Roads Convention Center, and the Narrow Cinema or the Narrow Theater is going to be sending some people over to perform the Rocky Horror Picture Show, and I'm very excited about that.
I did it years ago.
Did you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Isn't that great?
I love it. At the Narrow.
Yeah. My wife to this day has never seen the Rocky Horror Picture Show. She's intrigued. She wants to.
We need to change that.
Right?
Oh my God, I want to go now.
And I don't know why I have Hairspray and Divine written down.
I love Divine. I actually met Divine.
Really?
Yeah. And I was very young, and I was in upstate New York, and she came through to a club.
Is she still alive?
No,
Oh, okay.
died many years ago.
Okay.
Heart attack, but from probably massive amounts of drugs over the years and
Yeah.
overweight and
Right,
all
right,
that. But was just a shock. A shock jock. I mean, that's what I call her. Shock entertainer.
I think I've only seen her on like Letterman before.
Yeah. And that crazy the eye
yeah.
and it was just and it was so shocking to people. And then she
Right.
did the movie where she ate the dog poo, and that was supposed to be real.
I don't know anything
Yeah,
about that.
yeah. There's a whole. Which John Waters did a whole series of movies with her.
All right, well, let's talk real quick. I want
Yep.
your thoughts on Dylan Mulvaney, and then we have a final thought to go out on.
Okay, Miss Dylan Mulvaney.
Dylan Mulvaney.
Yeah, she. I think she claims that she did not realize that it would get this kind of backlash, and I don't understand how she could not. But I think stuff like this needs to happen, and the backlash needs to happen, and people because eventually it will become more of the norm that trans people will be representing product
Right.
and brands.
Sure.
I've seen it with a lot of RuPaul Drag Race queens and with Absolute Vodka and different, companies that they represent in Travelocity and all kinds of different things. But I think she really missed the mark, not realizing that this was going to be something. Her posting on her Instagram, and in the video, she said, "I just never thought it would have made news or anybody would care, but you're very well known and you have millions of followers, and you have to know that people are watching you with a microscope." And it kind of goes back to that thing that I talk about with drag performers. Like when you perform, read the room, know what you're getting into. Right. If you choose to still do it, know that. But don't try to tell me that you had no idea. Like, oh my God, I had no idea that I was going to do a beer commercial.
See this wristband I'm wearing? You see the
right.
brand, Bud Light.
Bud Light.
This came out way before Dylan.
Yeah.
So I mean, but I guess just because of the platform that she was on, it was so large. And
and now with things swirl and go into people's feeds and algorithms that that they and I think the news was slow that week.
Yeah.
So it really just blew up into something that.
I personally just haven't given it much thought. It's not an issue for me in my life. I don't drink light beer.
Yeah.
I don't drink Budweiser. I'm a Guinness man.
I don't drink beer. I rarely drink.
Yeah. I was going to ask you if you wanted a drink. I have some there.
I'm good. Thank you,
okay.
though.
All right.
Thank you.
I always have it for emergencies.
Just to get through.
Yeah.
But no, I just I thought it was silly, but I understood it. To me, it was like throwing gasoline on a fire.
Yes.
And I was more surprised that she wasn't. That was caught off guard somehow. Like, I didn't know that this would happen. I'm like, how could you not know that was going to happen? Like, maybe not to that level, but...
Do you think it helped the trans community move forward a couple inches or move back a couple of feet or what? Or no difference at all?
Basically move back a little bit,
Yeah.
just like a lot of the stuff with Caitlyn Jenner being Woman of the Year for ESPN.
Right.
And all of those things hurt a little, but yet... Then once it all dies down,
Right.
it all kind of gets washed away somewhat.
Mm-hmm.
I think that we have much bigger issues
Absolutely.
than to worry about a transgender person endorsing a beer.
Right.
That she's paid to do that commercial.
Right.
She was paid to do that. And you're mad at the beer company.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my gosh.
It's really ridiculous.
Yeah. But it's on both sides. There's other things like gay community mad at Chick-fil-A for
I
being
remember that.
anti-hate and all this. And God, and you. So I see all sides of it, and I try to stay neutral as much as I can. But if you corner me, I'm going to tell the truth. I'm not going to lie. And I just think it's all rather silly. Like, live your life. And don't worry about what someone that's never met you thinks of you.
Exactly.
I always say when I post things, I get hate too, and when I do, I just ignore it.
That's the best. That's the best way.
Someone very, very famous told me, never read the comments, darling. Never read the comments.
Yeah, I've heard that exact same advice.
Really? And I go right to the comments because I am a sadomasochist. I must be, because I want to know. And, and some of them.
So many trolls out there, too, though, that just trying to get a rise out of you.
Well, that's just that. They want it. They want, I always thank them. That's my thing on because I'm a comedian. So when they say something horrible about me, I always think, "Thank you so much for following me."
Yeah. I don't want to hear that.
I never take for granted any of my fans.
I'm not a fan.
And then I'm not your fan, and I'm like, and then I will do an emoji of a fan rolling. Anyway, that's just me. I'm dumb.
I'm gonna ask you one more bit of advice.
Okay.
And then I'd like for you to plug whatever you want to plug.
Okay.
Point people in that direction, and then we'll wrap it up here.
Okay.
Advice for young people or even older people that want to explore the world of cross-dressing for the first time, or even become a performer someday. From Jennifer Warner here. This is advice from her.
Well, first of all, come to my show.
First step.
Support local drag.
Yes.
Support local entertainers. Come support. Watch, tip the girls, enjoy the show, see what we do, do tutorials on YouTube, and you can. There's so many outlets now. If you don't know where to go, it's almost like, do you live under a rock? Like, what's happening?
And after the shows, most of the women are usually pretty willing to talk to fans and just chit chat, and they have places that they need to be, but they'll certainly entertain.
I do.
Yeah.
A lot.
Yeah.
I have for years, because I feel that I do feel, and I hate the word celebrity, but I do feel that I'm I call myself a tangible celebrity.
Jennifer Warner, you are a celebrity.
Well, thank you.
You're the first celebrity that's ever been in this office, I think.
Thank you. But I feel like most queens are tangible celebrities. Meaning, if you run up to Britney Spears and try to hug her, her security guard's going to slam you on the sidewalk.
Yeah.
If you run up to me and hug me, I don't always have security. Even if I do, I usually tell them, stand back there. I can probably handle it. I have some very handsy people who want to touch parts that they shouldn't, and they're just drunk or whatever, and but I'm really good. I've dealt with it for 40 years, so I know how to get people to act right and with a motherly tone, and that finger, that shaking of the finger.
People should know better, though. You don't just run up and wrap your arms around somebody,
Well, for that one or two people that do that a year, there's 1,000 people that are amazing to me. I got a letter, and I want to just share this with you. I got an email after the first Busch Gardens show, and it was from a woman who said, you came into the audience, and you came around, and you went to my son, who's in a wheelchair, and he rocked back and forth, and you held his hands, and she said, and he smiled, and with the music went with you. And she said he is severely autistic and has never spoken before, and he actually attempted to speak that day. And I'm reading this in bed afterwards, bawling my eyes out. And I thought,
wow,
oh my God, like, I did that and didn't even know what I did. And it was so touching. I could literally cry talking about it, because it touched me so much. And that cuts out all those hateful people that say horrible things, and we're groomers and we're doing whatever. Those words. I'm like, no. I know the happiness that I've given so many people over all the years, and I want to continue to do it as long as this old body will hold up. I'm going to keep up there doing the razzle dazzle.
It sort of makes it all worthwhile, right? Moments like that.
Yeah, it does.
That's awesome. All right, Jennifer Warner, tell people where they can find you and your merch and anything else you want to mention.
Oh my gosh, you can find me on Facebook. Yay, remember Facebook? Instagram, Twitter, Tumblr, Flickr,
TikTok.
TikTok. I'm everywhere. Just type in Jennifer Warner. Usually it's 3,000. That's how old I am. And you can find me everywhere doing stand-up, doing drag brunches. I work at the famous venue in Portsmouth. I do another drag brunch in Elizabeth City at the Boathouse. I do twice a month an OBX at the Comfort Inn Suites. Inside, we have a ballroom. It's with Gutbusters Comedy Club. And so I do comedy, and I also do a drag show, a night drag show for that. We are 18 and up for that show because it's a little racy, but nothing crazy. We have a good time. So I go to the Outer Banks. I'm doing it throughout the summer. We may carry it a little bit into September. These Labor Day weekend, I'll be in New Orleans if you're there. I'll be hosting for Southern Decadence. So I'm really excited for that. The next weekend after that is Outer Banks Pride Fest in Outer Banks. It's in Manio. It's a beautiful weekend, the 8th, 9th, and 10th. Come out, see. It's a free event. It's family friendly. Bring your kids. It's an outdoor festival. Bring water, no coolers. Have a good time. Come and see some drag.
She brought me water today. Isn't that nice?
I did. And so I just have a million different things I do all the time. So you can go on my page. You'll see all of my advertisements for drag brunches and shows. And don't forget to catch me next year. If you missed it the last 2 years at Busch Gardens, the Old Country.
I would love to catch you there live and in person. That'd be
It's
amazing.
an incredible show.
Yeah.
They have a great budget. They're really good to us.
Thank you, Jennifer Warner.
Thank
you. It
you.
was a real pleasure to talk with you today.
Thank you.
Once again, I'm Chris Kepix. This is the Clover Street Podcast. Be sure and listen on Apple Podcast, Spotify. You can listen and watch, and of course on YouTube, where we probably have our most viewers. But thanks again, everybody, and we will see you next time.